Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, this is BurnCrowSP talking, and allow me to take a detour from my usual nerdy talk to tackle something that has been happening for the past few months. Yes, my aim with this video is to dive into the Reploid REVO situation. So let me cut this short and leave you guys with a quick disclaimer. The purpose of this documentary is to show you the full picture about the events regarding Reploid REVO that happened between February 21st and April 7th, 2024, in a more organized way. As such, my own personal opinion will not be part of it until the very end of the video. The sources for everything, be it documents, videos, or statements, will be linked in the description. This is not an invitation to harass or attack any community member shown in this video, and I severely condemn those actions in case they happen. I also might add, some of the topics I'm about to talk about can be quite sensitive, so keep that in mind. To be more specific, here's a quick trigger warning for very heavy themes, like sexual assault, suicide, grooming, bullying, and pedophilia, as well as showcases of crude language like racist, homophobic, and transphobic slurs. With that out of the way, let me start by the very beginning. Reploid REVO is the name of a YouTube channel created on May 27th, 2017, a space that was, and still is, solely focused on creating content about the Mega Man series of games, books, manga, and so on. Though most of the content is centered around the lore of the franchise. When it came to be 7 years ago, the channel was a combined effort of Bonus Level, artist and designer for characters and miscellanea shown in thumbnails and videos, as well as Gilliam, who became the voice of his own original character, Twitch, thus becoming the main face of the brand. Twitch became a very well-known member of the community, as REVO's content was informative and it quickly became appreciated among fellow Mega Man fans. This rise in popularity never faded up until recently, when all of the events that this video will go over took place. Despite a few changes along the way, Reploid REVO's popularity just kept increasing, to the point where Twitch became one of the biggest Mega Man exclusive content creators. There were small bits of conflict, mind you, usually related to the way he responded to some people, which is something we'll get into later, that is, until the 20th of February, 2024. If you were around Twitter at that time, you probably saw a few users mentioning how Twitch talked to them in a very flirty way in the past, despite being minors. Specifically, this post of a user named Tess kicked off the initial grooming accusations, although it all seemed to fade away in the subsequent days. That little spark, however, truly lit up the conflict a few days later on February 29th. On that day, a user on Twitter posted this meme, accompanied by the text, "So this is where Reploid REVO lives." The meme was a late reaction to a post that showed up on February 21st, that described the initial grooming accusations with Reploid REVO's owner under the spotlight. The picture itself was a reference to a similar set of memes about the drama surrounding Major Klug.
So this is where Major Klug lives. I grew minors! This is where my Discord got doxed on 4chan!
Even
Klug Inc! We're pedophiles and groomers alike come to groom! We don't need verification because we want minors here! So we can tickle their foreskins and touch their forceps!
In which the user, the Honorable, compiles the original accusations, showcasing how at some point Twitch followed a Twitter account that posted NSFW content showcasing childlike characters, commonly known as lollies.
Join our server except you
Twitch
can't
immediately
because
responded,
invites are
stating that he
closed!
did not follow that account and that he did not know what the accusations were implying. After this post, the Honorable, as well as some other users, showed various screenshots of his conversations over Discord, in which he, on one hand, scolded users for posting suggestive content involving underage characters, while on the other hand, he was apparently attracted to these types of images. That increment in awareness opened the doors for many individuals to break their silence, and so it begins. On March 1st, 2024, a user named Super Ali posted this tweet. In these conversations, you can see Twitch acting flirty with Ali, despite this user being underage at the time, which is something mentioned along the conversation. A few hours earlier that same day, a user named Virtue3D posted this, showing a prior email conversation with Reploid REVO, in which both agreed to not attack each other following past events. Keep this in mind for later. By this time, people got to see the very first response from Twitch regarding the original main post, affirming that these allegations were baseless, and mentioning how this isn't the first time that people have made up information about him, and so no one should give them any attention. This was also brought up inside the official Reploid REVO Discord server, which will play a very important role later on. As you can see, Twitch responded with, "I refuse to acknowledge nor defend myself from baseless accusations," and then thanked his fanbase for supporting him. Treating these as baseless brought people to post various cases, and screenshots of a few quite brutal comments posted by Twitch on his Twitter account and other social media in the past. Most of these, aside from showcasing his most contentious side, were also proof that the accusations may not be as baseless as he wanted people to think. And so, compared to how he responded to the claims over Discord, his public reaction was quite different, as his way to deal with all of the claims going around was locking down his Twitter account. While he mentioned to those who still were able to see his tweets that he was trying to gather up evidence to come out with a statement that will address every single claim against him. After this initial reaction went by, more testimonies kept surfacing to the internet. A user named Blossom21 showed more evidence of REVO acting weird over DMs on Discord, and after being confronted about it, allegedly apologized, although right after, Blossom mentioned how Bonus Level and Twitch decided to block her on social media. Another user pointed out a case in which, after joining a server about Mega Man, they found REVO posting mostly suggestive content. Meanwhile, others posted more evidence of some of his most contentious tweets, like this one. Moving on to March 2nd, the mega artist posted a series of pictures about the experience of a person named N, who decided to not reveal its identity. On these, REVO quickly takes a conversation about food into sexual territory. Following this, he DM'd N, sending messages with a very flirty tone. Right after, he went on to ask about this person's age, retweeting only after knowing that this user was underage. Under this very same thread, more screenshots were added by Taco Merchant, showcasing even more evidence of REVO sharing some unmannered conversations. And finally, before moving on to the next day in the timeline, evidence was posted about Gilliam trying to blackmail people, threatening them on Twitter on different occasions. According to the Honorable, 3 different users were harassed by Twitch this way. Things grew bigger on March 3rd, a very important date for the entire story. On one side, we got the public statement of ShadowRockCX, who is also a content creator mostly focused on the Mega Man franchise, and widely known for his coverage of everything related to the Blue Bomber on his Mega News series of videos. That very same day, he posted a file named "The True Reason Why I Disassociated from Reploid REVO." This document revealed that both participants of the team behind REVO, as well as a user named Prototwee, had direct involvement with a detractor account named Saved You a Click SR that actively posted content with the goal of, quote-unquote, teaching a lesson to him for allegedly parroting the guys at Rodman Corner. To add on to this, March 3rd, 2024 also marked the day in which Virtue3D, also known as Bio3D, posted a tweet accompanied by a document. Inside of it, Virtue spoke about his past relationship with Twitch. According to this statement, his story began in 2019, when he met the user behind Reploid REVO through VR chat after he created a server named Chronos Institute, following a very complicated situation with a different content creator not named in the document. He mentions how at the time he idolized REVO as a content creator. However, Virtue recalls how, despite Twitch agreeing to work with him on the server, he used to be very confrontational, but somehow both managed to come to an agreement that didn't last long. He explains how after this, REVO sided with the content creator that he has some issues with before, and decided to take out all of the content that he had designed for the VR chat server. Allow me to read through his own words. That creator's GF made a threat to have my server raided and shut down, and the creator himself started accusing me of stealing assets when we were both using assets from XDive. My friend went to REVO to tell him the situation, but instead of listening, he already had chosen sides. The other creator had a bigger following, so he chose him over me. Removed my content from the map, replaced it with the other guys, and messaged me demanding I admit to stealing when I did not. I lashed out at him, and thus for the next year or two, it was nothing but drama. Around the same time, I had met Megamats and Vinity, who were both big fans of his work. I streamed myself pulling the game assets to them, and even making personalized models for them both. What I didn't realize is that Mats had feelings for Vinity, but she saw him as a little brother. Mats was 15 and Vinity was 20. I was 23 at the time. Vinity and I started growing feelings for each other, and Mats did not take that too well. Knowing to me, Mats was already on REVO's server and was trying to make a peaceful solution to the drama going on by frequently messaging both REVO and the other creator. That's when Vinity and I started dating. Mats got rightfully upset and ran to them and joined their side, forming an alliance of servers specifically made to cancel me and run me off from the community. They created a document that accused me of a lot of false information, and not one of them ever came to me to ask my side of the story. I was ostracized and demonized, just like my friend was. But I had it a lot worse. My friend went into hiding and was really upset as well, since he also idolized REVO. But at the same time, he gave me a huge file dump of not just the character models from Dive, but also worlds. That's when I became the worst version of myself. I spent the next year living in hate and taking it out on everyone around me because I couldn't trust anyone. Everyone to me was just someone waiting to betray and use me, just like REVO did. A few months in, Vinity and I had a falling out because of all the negativity and the things she was hearing from Mats and REVO, who she remained in contact with. This left me heartbroken. We had paused our relationship, and that's when my mental health fully snapped. So I put all the models I made for her and Mats as public avatars for anyone to use. This rightfully made them upset, and after a talk with Mats, he agreed to talk things out with me and Vinity, but he demanded a third party to be there to help negotiate. I reluctantly agreed, and I knew right from the start that it was going to be REVO there. I knew it was a trap, but I cared about Mats and Vinity, and I was bent on trying to at least talk things out before it all got so much worse. So I showed up. REVO chose a Chuck E. Cheese map, which proved to me how bad this was going to get, and it started.
Doing these things where you lose this person, another person, and it just keeps going. And then you whole communities look at you and they go, damn, dude, what the hell are you on? Why are you doing this? And then you jump ship and you go somewhere else. You can't... Running away and starting over again somewhere else where people don't know your name and they don't know your reputation is not a method of survival.
What you just saw is a very small fragment of a 60-minute conversation that, according to a tweet that Bile posted a few days later, was recorded and uploaded privately to YouTube without the consent of those who participated in it. The moment this conversation finished, according to Virtue's testimony, REVO went on to ask Mads about personal information about both him and Vinity. Once more, let me show you his own words. He immediately asked Mads for personal information about me and Vinity and said things like he wished I was dead and how I should kill myself. Mads didn't agree, and the moment he went against REVO, he was ostracized and demonized. He completely deleted his account, and I wouldn't hear from him until a few years later, when he reached out to Vinity on Instagram. Mads and Vinity made up, and I also made up with Mads. And then Mads told me his story and everything he went through. I chose to keep silent, and so did he. But we all kept these negative emotions inside of us, and lived in fear that if we said anything openly, then REVO would follow through with his threats. I later had beef with 2 Sonic fans on the game that were spreading CP and underage character porn on BRC, and these people had doxed me, and someone I knew doxed them in return and reported them to the police. I had banned them from every server for it, and they got very hostile about it and ran straight for REVO to help. I emailed him and told him the situation on how they only not doxed me but were also sharing these images to minors. His response was basically just telling me that I am the villain in everyone's life and to leave them alone. After all of this, Virtue was apparently banned from multiple communities due to REVO warning them about him. This was confirmed in Matt's statement, which also goes into detail about the situation and how REVO went nuclear after the incident, then tried to dox Virtue. Aside from all of this, Vile's statement also brought up Bonus Level once more, the original artist of the channel, who parted ways with Twitch 1 year prior to these events. The way he spoke about them during the conversation quickly got people's attention after he called them a peanut gallery out loud.
That was lame.
Yeah, it was lame. Thank you, honey. Moving on. Now that the peanut gallery is stepping out of the room.
Not only that, but most of the screenshots that surfaced prior to this, showcasing his flirty DMs with random users, happened while being married to Bonus Level. Evidence shows that he still did after breaking up with them, and he still does despite being in a relationship with another person. We'll get to that later down the line. March 3rd also saw the appearance of evidence from a user named C that showcases REVO responding in a very angry manner. At first, REVO's response was full radio silence, although he was not going to remain as such for long, at least privately. We'll get to that in a moment, but at this point, what was once a little spark in the dark of the internet suddenly turned into a massive flame. The entire community, one way or another, was aware of the situation, to the point where if you googled Reploid REVO, the first few search results were all about the same topic. Moving on to March 4th, following the big statements of the very last day, more voices joined the conversation, after gathering up enough courage to speak up about their own perspective of the story. Mega Artist, following his post on March 2nd, uploaded even more evidence, this time involving the way Reploid REVO went back to the user named N, the very exact moment of their 18th birthday. March 5th brought along some new testimonies into the picture, with Megan uploaded a document named Clearing Up Some Things Regarding REVO. This document leads into one of the most well-known tweets posted by Twitch. However, instead of reading through their words, Megan was kind enough to voice over their testimony for this video. I'll let them do the talking.
Hello, I'm Megan. On most sites you probably know me as #1 Ryoma fan. I apologize in advance if the mic quality of this video isn't going to be the best, nor do I have a proper avatar. I'm just kind of using, well, Ryoma. I just wanted to give my verbal testimony, even if it's not going to be the best of quality, because I feel people need to know what exactly happened with me in REVO, as the details of the events are floating around, but people either don't know the full context or know it's me, even though I did make a doc, which BurnCrow should be linking in the description of this video. For some context, I got into Mega Man at the end of 2019, and into 2020 I started interacting with the fandom more, especially because of, COVID stuff. I found out about Revo's channel rather fast, and I thought it was interesting given he proposed himself as the lore guy, and I wanted to know all I could about the series. I had a neutral stance on him for the longest time, as I heard bad things about him, but I kind of ignored some of the red flags at first, because I was figuring, well, maybe it's just taking out of context, and maybe he will get better. But at some point, there was an interaction we had where I said I didn't like the shipping of CL and Zero, and for context, I still don't. And Revo made a reply trying to justify CL as mentally an adult. And that was pretty off-putting. Even though in the screenshot I'm providing, I did act neutral towards it, or how he responded, I didn't know how to feel about it. Fast forward to February 2021. I will admit, I made a very immature, vague tweet about Revo. I have unfortunately since deleted it, so I don't have what I exactly said, nor have I found anyone who still has the screen cap of it. But I don't remember the exact gist of what I was saying, other than I was still uncomfortable about what he had said about CL, and allegedly I painted him as a pedophile. He found this out and lost his goddamn mind. And when I mean lost it, he threatened to make an entire thread about me if I didn't apologize within 24 hours. I did in fact apologize, twice actually, once publicly and once in a DM that I cannot find, but I swear I did DM him, a few hours before his designated deadline. He then chose to ignore both of them. He proceeded with the thread and took things out of context we had said to each other to paint me as this awful person, which got to the point that people did side with him and turned against me. I'm talking people outside of the Mega Man community chose me over him. Of course, I still had people who did defend me, and I do appreciate most of them, but the one most noteworthy interaction was one user called him out for using the wrong pronouns for me. As I said, I am non-binary, despite my name. How does he react to this? Well, if you've seen this screenshot, you can probably guess afterwards we never interacted again, especially since we both collectively blocked each other, and I was fine with that. I left the community so I wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. But I know from some other screenshots from some other users that he still talked about me. Even on one of his ass sites, he said something very interesting about me that I'm debating to share. Probably not going to in this statement, but you can always ask me directly about it. I was mostly at peace and fine with everything, even if I had to warn people about this guy if I ever mentioned Mega Man again. But seeing everything that was going on recently, I'm a little pissed off again. I didn't think he could get any worse. I really didn't. I knew he was racist. I knew he mistreated people. But I didn't know the extent to his actions when it came to other minors. It seems to him you're either groomed or you get disrespected. And both of those are bad coming from a 35-year-old. I am sorry to all the other people he has ever hurt. I really wish we could have done something sooner, even if we're finally taking actions now, because I knew after everything that happened to me he was going to get worse. I just knew he wasn't going to improve. But I can never say anything, because who the fuck would believe me, you know? And, Revo, if you somehow find this video or care to listen to my voice, I really hope you just learn from this. You don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope you generally learn and leave this community, because we don't want you anymore. This is Megan, also known as #1 Ryoma fan, signing off. Thank you once again for letting me speak out about my experience, BurnCrow. It means a lot.
This document also showcased Twitch's response sometime after all of this happened, which is what you're seeing on screen right now. Later on that same day, some extra evidence came out thanks to the efforts of another Twitter user who had known Rebo from a long time ago. Most of these logs come from Second Life, and they showcase some very strong language that falls into the category of racial slurs, foreshadowing of future allegations against him, and several incidents like trying to persistently hang out with people. Later, Captain Solnik posted more evidence on a different topic. Going back to the supposed allegations of REVO liking underage characters, he showed evidence that backs up those claims. These responses come after Solnik asked Twitch about why had he included characters like Kalinka or Roll, who are children, in a smash or pass list. This user also added how despite this message of sorting everything out on DMs, no message ever arrived. Moving onward to March 6th, to add on to the confrontation with Bile 3D video, ShadowrockCX posted a comment that REVO left on that now private recording of the discussion, in which he badmouthed Virtue even further. While only a few people were allowed to see that tweet, Gilliam responded to one of the comments he got, saying that he was working on a statement and that he's gathering important information. He also mentions how not everything said about him is untrue, and that he was planning to take accountability for his actions. More on that later. Despite this picture becoming public a bit later, a few hours earlier, REVO addressed all of these allegations inside his private porn Discord server, where most of his close friends are apparently. He mentions how there are many difficult claims going around about me, some of which are true, some of which are not being represented accurately, while asking for support from his partners. Now, when the 7th of March came to be, Virtue 3D shared more information about REVO's attitude towards him. Pictures of a specific document that we will come back later to were posted online, showcasing how Twitch, before even working on his public statement, decided to edit back an old doc in which he, once more, had talked down on Virtue as well as his fiancée Vinity. These edits deleted a ton of evidence, replacing it with the words that you are seeing on screen right now. This behavior was understood by the public as him non-verbally stating that he was more willing to modify evidence rather than being straightforward about the accusations. Knowing this, a few hours later that very same day, all of the scandal had a very different repercussion on Reploid REVO's online presence, as he was removed from the Capcom official content creator program, since all of the evidence posted in the past few days had breached every single line of the creator's code of conduct. On March 8th, Vinity decided to join the conversation and posted a thread on Twitter adding on to Virtue's testimony. These are the words posted on that thread. I was friends with Mads because he found someone who knew about Mega Man that was a girl, and I was more of a parental supervisor than a creep like you. You can be friends with someone younger and not sexually harass them, especially when you are like 34 and they're 15. There's something called morals and common sense that keeps you from being a predator to children and an overall horrible being. On another note, you also can claim someone gets married way too fast, but it's funny when you weren't even married to begin with, let alone to someone who actually liked you mentally or physically. Crazy you had to beat the notion that you're likable enough to hold them hostage in your manipulative, narcissistic life. Yeah, it's not so behind the scenes anymore. And yes, I can admit to my own stupidity of being an emotional wreck, but like I told you before, my mother had passed and you took advantage of my unhinged grief and emotion to film Virtue and use my silence against your plot as consent. I may have been upset at the time, but listening to you ramble on and on made me realize I should have said something to the eldest adult in the room and not act like a child myself and keep quiet. That's why I apologized to everyone involved and let them know I was wrong and that I personally will do better and be better for Virtue. But you already knew that because I told you, and you said if it happens again, you wouldn't be there to back me up and send me on my way. The 9th of March saw Virtue revealing more screenshots of the attempts of the REVO team to dox him, sharing his personal information as well as pictures of his car and his home. The doc where this was posted is the same one that Twitch had edited a few days ago, and this led to these screenshots coming up later that day. In this, he mentions how the evidence was deleted for the sake of privacy, also mentioning how doxing is a crime, which to the community felt like a massive hypocritical comment. To finish off, the very next day, Virtue reported that rather than editing the document, Twitch had deleted it altogether to preserve the safety of both parties. Despite this, Gilliam's response inside the document was as it follows. I apologize for ever making this my business. I apologize for ever working to defend my friends. I apologize for reducing myself to this level in order to defeat someone I believe to be a very negative influence on every community he's a part of. It's not my place to judge that. Bile's own actions will define his perception going forward. Needless to say, these actions slowly made things worse for REVO in the eyes of the whole community. That, combined with the delay of his public statement, made the resentment towards him grow even further, to the point where a few users decided to dox him in retaliation. Seeing this, content creator Thai Gameplaya posted a 10-minute video in which he explains how all of this happened, as well as addressing some points regarding the community.
On March 8th, 2024, I posted a tweet, a very vague tweet, and I didn't really elaborate on this tweet. I had said, imagine having Sons of Kojima-esque and Fred fucked-ass people in the Mega Man community. Woo lad.
Moving on to the third week of the conflict, the sun rose on March 11th, and more screenshots of past logs were published in a document named How Far Does the Reploid REVO Rabbit Hole Go Down? These logs show even more instances of Twitch using very strong words, like racial slurs or threats of sexual assault. Aside from the horrible things about friends and women that he says during these conversations, he admits here to have a secret porn folder, and we'll definitely get onto that later on. Another user named Bear responded to the original post that shared these logs, affirming to be the ex that Gilliam threatened multiple times during these same conversations. The same day these were published, a minor decided to talk to the Honorable and showcase a new testimony, though this person decided to remain anonymous. The screenshots add even more evidence to Twitch being awkwardly flirty in DMs. Later in the afternoon, another user who goes by the name of Monchi posted a thread about how everything surrounding Reploid REVO has resulted in the termination of their friendship. Monchi's thread also gives further evidence of REVO trying to delete evidence, since it mentions how, after the allegations came out, the private server of his was terminated. A few hours later, a user by the name of Jeeps noticed how a few of REVO's collaborators were snooping around different social media accounts of this person. Specifically, Prototwai was caught taking a look around Jeeps' Facebook. After being confronted, REVO's mod took a more defensive approach, mocking Jeeps and mentioning Twitch's name. Now, on this very same day, Tess posted a new tweet about the situation, affirming that he had a PDF copy of the aberrant units file, which we will see later down the road. 24 hours later, on March 13th, thanks to Virtue 3D and a user named Falcon, we finally got the chance to see a small glance of what truly happened between Bonus Level and Gilliam. Falcon says that the evil bastard who manipulated Bonus, these words being said by REVO himself some time ago, is him, and that since then they have lived peacefully up until a few weeks prior to this tweet, the day in which Twitch slandered their names once more. Virtue added evidence of this, showing a few screenshots of REVO talking about Bonus in a very derogatory manner. Both Jeeps and Falcon added more context to these conversations, saying that Gilliam did not allow Bonus Level to move away despite being cheated on multiple times, even after Bonus saw him sleeping with other women at the very same house. Proof of this will arrive later. Falcon also showed an email that arrived 3 days after the conversation you just saw, calling Bonus a peanut gallery once more and accusing them of being paranoid. To add up to this, another user, Jojo, posted a few screenshots of Twitch's Discord server, just a few moments after he announced that both him and Bonus Level had terminated their relationship. Immediately after the statement, he apparently went on to joke about it, and as the Honorable pointed out, a few months after this is when these messages I've showed you before took place. Sunrise on March 14th, and the Honorable posted this. A thread showcasing an exchange that Gilliam had in 2014. He himself had sent this to a partner, and the message showcases how REVO has sexually assaulted a friend after attending a convention. He did apologize after this, which is what you're seeing right now. The very moment this screenshot surfaced to the internet, the Facebook account that REVO used was modified, changing his name and profile picture. Not only this, but he also deleted more than 100 tweets soon after, apparently to try and protect himself while he was supposedly working on his statement. Later even, Virtu3D showed even more evidence on how he treated Bonus Level when they turned their back on him, and following the divorce. Calling them paranoid once more, while accusing Jeeps and Duggan of talking crap about him to Bonus, and filling their head with the wrong ideas, apparently. He then goes on to call Falcon an opportunistic piece of shit who managed to reap the rewards of his hard work, because he decided to house Bonus after breaking up with him. Gilliam then goes on to wish death upon him and slander him even further. March 15th saw REVO, once more, trying to delete tweets in order to hide evidence on the case, 95 of them to be exact. One of those erased tweets was saved by the Honorable, since it was the reason why Twitch blocked them a few years ago. It shows an interaction in which he once more talks about underage characters in a very suggestive manner. They also unearthed very contentious tweets during their investigation, which is what you're seeing right now on screen. This contradicts past claims in which REVO says that he stands to everything that he has said online. And that was it for that day. But then, March 16th saw another big statement adding up to the whole picture. Jojo published a thread of his own, showing evidence of REVO's actions after Jojo called him out for talking down on Bonus in 2023. During a few of his streams, Gilliam was caught mocking Duster, which used to be Bonus Level's character on the channel. The evidence is now unavailable since REVO has made all of his streams private. Jojo left a comment saying that the disrespect at the character was not necessary, to which he replied with, "Yes it was, and I truly endorse it." The conversation developed further, with Twitch affirming that Jojo didn't know what was going on with his life, and saying that everyone should pretend that Bonus never were a part of the channel, as he's trying to remove all of their content from Reploid REVO. This behavior contradicts how, according to Twitch, both him and Bonus ended on good terms, which was obviously a lie. Later that day, a user named TomThey shared a conversation showing how they asked Gilliam about a story that he had brought up from time to time, involving another content creator, this being Brentalfloss. During the conversation, he talks down on Brentalfloss, because apparently after REVO asked him about Mega Man Legends 3, which was cancelled very recently at the time, he said that he did not care too much about it, since he only cared about classic Mega Man. Twitch then goes on to mention how a friend of his went on to talk to Brentalfloss at a different event, and he asked her to sleep in his room, to which she supposedly agreed. Twitch mentions all of this without adding any proof aside from his words. When these pictures were made available, people found it ironic, since not only did they not believe REVO's accusations here, but they are almost a reflection of his own behavior in 2014. On the meanwhile, MZ Circuit posted a conversation with an anonymous user, who affirmed that Twitch used to have an Amino account. On that app, apparently, He was very prone to causing conflict, even getting caught giving pleasure to himself. Even if at the time there was no more evidence about this, a user mentioned how Amino moderators know about the full story. That evidence was quickly found since his profile was still up and this post was unearthed. In the post, REVO explains why he left the community, the reason being because of him feeling burned at the time and getting very worked up about discussions with other users. In this statement, he admitted that he had wished death upon other users while criticizing moderators for handing him a strike for his actions, and then talking about himself as the victim of the situation. Now, on March 17th, the document that Tess was talking about 5 days prior finally reached the internet. This is Aberrant Units. At this point of the story, Twitch already had more than 30 allegations against him, and people had already noticed REVO's reluctance to be transparent about them. This feeling among the public was amplified after this PDF file was shown. Aberrant Units, as REVO's owner explains on the first pages, was meant to be a log of the people who get banned on the official Reploid REVO Discord server. In fact, it also used to be a public channel that anyone on the server could access to. However, the way some of these are addressed showcases how it became more of a personal blacklist, which is even clearer when looking at the tone in which most of the entries are written. This is also the document that Virtue3D was talking about on March 9th, which further proves the bad intent behind its existence. Going back to REVO's logs of Second Life, Bear shares some extra opinions on the matter, showcasing some of Gilliam's most violent conducts in the past. Now moving on to March 18th, one small clip of his now private streams surfaced onto Twitter after Virtue3D was able to recover it. It showcases REVO having one of his usual anger bursts on stream.
And oh my god. This thing is filled with holes, and there's no fucking way to get out of them.
What you should do is you should hit it when it's not gonna do. Now you've got the target in your sights. Jared!
That wasn't the only new discovery though, as later that day he also posted this. REVO apparently compared his situation to Pro Jared's, who needed 3 years to solve his own stuff. Below this tweet, it was also shown that he kept deleting more evidence on a daily basis. The community found this to be baffling. After almost a month since he promised a statement, he had shown radio silence on social media and just kept trying to remove everything that could supposedly worsen his situation. On March 19th, Jeeps posted a document written by a close friend of REVO, who decided to post this as an anonymous user. The statement is just named Jared. Inside of it, this person goes into detail about their friendship, sharing some very personal experiences along the way, like how they always attended cons together, which led to them meeting Jeeps as well as bonus level. It also details some of the very first steps towards the creation of Reploid REVO and Jared's relationships at the time. Also, it adds some detail about his complicated situation at home back then. According to this user, REVO and Bonus grew attached very quickly and then started dating. Despite everything looking to be very positive for both of them, things suddenly changed. And then one day, things got rough. Luke told me something negative in the relationship. We were driving somewhere. Luke was so quiet and suddenly started ripping his sketchbook. I asked what's wrong, and although it wasn't my business to pry, these two were one of my best buds, so I did anyway. That's when they mentioned Jared was cheating on them. The car ride got pretty tense, yet interestingly, Jared openly admitted and owned up to it, but sugarcoated it of course. This is definitely a misquote, as this was many years ago, but he said something along the lines of, "It's only through Discord, it's never serious, I just like to get girls flustered." He said he'd do better, and I expressed how that wasn't something to take lightly. He seemed sorry, and I never heard anything bad about the relationship again. This was a naive assumption for me to make. In April of 2017, they had a little wedding. It was in the back of a restaurant. The weirdest part, Luke didn't seem very happy. I remember talking to Jeeps, whispering and wondering that maybe Luke was stressed out about it, and maybe that's why the vibe was off. Later I found out that after the wedding, Jared never finalized the paperwork. They were never officially married. Jared was struggling to hold on to jobs, and he will complain about one of his managers on Facebook, and as one would suspect, got canned. My one friend helped him find many different jobs, but he never applied to them. He would consistently come up with strange excuses why things were too hard or just wouldn't work. Despite this, they were able to afford another MacFest. It is now 2018. Jared and Luke made him his very first Mega Man Robot Master cosplay, Grenade Man. To my knowledge, Jared barely helped, and it was quite the task to create. It was a huge, well-constructed cosplay. His first Reploid REVO video dropped just about a month prior, and started to get more traction, and he even got a panel at MacFest. That con, Jeeps and Jared spent most of their time together and without me, so I saw how distant we were getting. 2 months later, I decided I needed to break up with him. Things weren't working out anymore. We grew apart and the physical distance wasn't cutting it. Keep in mind, this is one of Jared's best friends, and I was hurting. Jared did not feel comfortable with it, and he immediately scheduled a Discord phone call for me and Jeeps and Luke to all sit in on, talking about how I should give him another shot, and I couldn't. It was such an unpleasant interaction. I wanted to leave multiple times, and I was guilt-tripped into staying in this call. I was convinced that this was all a plot by Jeeps initially, but this stunt was organized and conducted by Jared. After a breakup, emotions are high and people are obviously hurt, and it felt like I was breaking up with Jared rather than Jeeps. Later, I started dating my then boyfriend and now husband. He came up with Luke to hang out with me, and he started scolding me. How dare I move on? He was in the driver's side seat, Luke in the one to his right, and I was in the back seat. He wouldn't even look at me, all while speaking in a stern voice like he was my parent. "You know you're really hurting Jeeps, right?" he said. He was appalled by our 6-year age gap, which was legal and consenting by the way. How ironic. But he just hated it, and kept telling me what a horrible person I was for leaving him, and how I had no remorse. Luke told me Jared was talking about Mason behind my back. He kept labeling my husband as a rebound and boring. How could Chris even like that guy? He's a piece of cardboard. I really didn't understand all the hate, but whatever, I saw less of Jared anyway, so I didn't let it bother me. Keep in mind, Jared spoke to Mason only once, so he formed that opinion of him based off an interaction that lasted about 13 minutes. Maybe he wouldn't have thought he was boring if they spent that time talking about Mega Man. The owners of the house in PA had to sell with little to no warning, and Jared needed to figure out where to go with Luke, Nina, their senior cat, and Ice the bird, and all of their cosplay, collectibles, and video games. It seemed very impulsive, but they decided to go to Ohio. He said there was nothing to do out there. The roommates were filthy and rude, and how badly he wanted to be in NJ, saying good food, friends, and things to do as reasons to move back. He even told me he felt like the personal housekeeper. He was forced to clean up after them all the time, and hated every moment there. They then disappeared for a long while, no online contact, no visits from Ohio to Jersey. You'd get the occasional Facebook post though, but we didn't talk. He began to flourish online and started to have a very large presence in the Mega Man community. I didn't watch his videos, and I didn't really like Mega Man that much anymore, but I heard he's starting to post a lot on Twitter. After what felt like eons, they found an apartment and moved back. I was so excited, they were going to be 12 minutes away from me. I get to see my friends again, I thought. When I set foot through the apartment door, things were really strange. Luke seemed so off. "Shut up, Jared" was a playful catchphrase he came up with that I joined in on, and it suddenly seemed really harsh. I saw Luke was on a Discord video call with Kyle, whom I didn't know at the time, and the three of us watched Ninja Turtles the movie over dinner. It felt so awkward. Luke stared off into the PC screen looking at Kyle. Jared seemed unfazed, invested in his food, the film, and tried to strike the conversation, but I couldn't shake how weird it felt. Luke was so reserved and not the silly self they usually were. The dynamic was uncomfortable to be around, so I ended up leaving halfway through the movie. I saw Kyle again through the Discord screen, and I waved at him and hugged my friends, and then went home. I invited them both to my birthday party because this year it landed on a Saturday, which was the upcoming weekend, March 26th, 2022. Jared came and Luke was nowhere to be found, apparently needing emergency dental work in New York, and was staying over a friend's house who lived near the dentist. He also mentioned his brother was stressing Luke out, so it was a great day to take a break from it all, or that he's taken a break at his friend's house for that reason previously or something, I don't really remember. But Jared seemed joyful and okay, so whatever, right? Days later, Jared tells me Luke has carved himself up and run away with the boy she's been cheating on me with. I believe Jared. I've known him for 10 plus years at this point, so we hung out and I brought him to his favorite sushi buffet. We then revisited the topic of Luke. He told me how upset he was and how it happened. He mentioned how evil all his ex-friends were, filling Luke's head with ideas on how to betray him. He brought up that my ex Jeeves was playing a big role and he understood why we broke up now. He swore up and down how he did nothing but provide for her, endlessly mentioning all the good he's done for her and how she surrounds herself with people that agree with her. It seemed off, so I later tried to reach out to Luke to learn more, but he was in a hospital and I couldn't. I was so worried. Then one day, I saw Luke message me back on Discord and told me a little bit of what happened. He told me he broke up with Jared and went off to New York to try and start new, which was absolutely not what Jared told me. Jared was also holding Luke's stuff hostage too. I was shocked because I was lied to by someone I thought was a close friend I could trust, and his actions were unbelievable given the circumstances. So Luke and I arranged a meeting and we met at the New York Ren Fair, and I got to meet Kyle in real life and we could talk about it more in person. I learned about so many horrible things he went through, things I cannot disclose as I didn't live through them and I cannot share, but they were incredibly bad. That night I severed my relationship with Jared. I only played nice to help Luke get his boxes of stuff back, so I admit I was two-faced. Jared, if you're reading this, I can't believe you are the same person I held so dear. It's upsetting to learn that every day something new and horrible about you pops up. I feel betrayed. That was not the only document, since now moving on to March 20th, Jeeps posted a second statement from a close friend of REVO named Counselor Trio. This doc file also goes into depth about the relationship between Twitch and Bonus. However, it reveals more information about certain events that were not known about before. Allow me to read through Trio's words. I had been introduced to his wife at the time, that I will refer to from this point on as partner/ex-partner for their self-identity. When I met her, she was bubbly and happy, but the cracks had formed even early in late 2018. All three of us were inseparable, until I learned that he was not taking care of her or their chores or house duties. She was often ignored, not fed, and took care of most work while Jared/Twitch mostly gamed or was battling self-inflicted debt that could have been avoided. At the time, I had become what ex-partner had joked a mysterious benefactor. I had been providing lots of financial support, buying food often, along with gifts to raise spirits and take care of both of them, but mostly ex-partner because I know how neglected they were, and I wanted to help in any way I could. This progressed into 2019, and he had been more and more neglectful. She had needed medical attention, doctor's appointments for months, and he kept refusing, neglecting, saying he'll get around to it. I had gotten fed up and scheduled her appointments for her to care for her, and I had told Jared/Twitch when the appointments will be to work his schedule around and take her. He had replied with threats of violence, breaking my teeth and telling me to back off and that I am not her husband and it's not my place. If he had just done it in the first place, I would never have had to step in. Around this time too, Jared/Twitch had loots and a porn channel, and knowing allowed a 16-year-old ditzy brunette to be part of it and encourage her to post loots and porn. I had DM'd ex-partner about ditzy being in the porn channel, and we both agreed immediately that a minor should not be in there. We both approached Jared/Twitch, and despite her worries and concerns, he kept her in and kept encouraging her to participate. He had begun grooming her, approaching her sexually, and emotionally manipulating her. All while being married, of course, and while ex-partner was aware. And also while during this time, Smarties had joined the server, I believe. Curse Word Corner, the porn channel, had been removed, and Jared/Twitch had created a private server called Curse Word Corner 2, with only his friends and certain female users that included Smarties and Ditzy. As I understand at least, Smarties had been in a relationship when she had joined the server. Jared/Twitch had manipulated her into breaking up with their partner and using her starstruckness and then naivety to start having feelings for him, while being married and while grooming a minor at the same time. He had eventually met up with Smarties and had sexual relations with her and taken advantage of her while being married. When Ditzy had just turned 18, he had sexual relations with her as well, while being married and while ex-partner was in the other room and could hear everything. Even beside this, Jared/Twitch had been making unwanted advances on other users in his server, using his status to coerce people. One such user was what is now an ex-girlfriend of mine, who had been used and been manipulated to send loot to him. He had cheated on ex-partner 3 times before I had even met them. When Jared and the ex-partner had COVID, I had provided financial aid, doctor's appointments scheduled, and medicine being delivered while ex-partner fought through their COVID to care for Jared/Twitch, who had been taking it worse. To repay her, he had continued other girls and victims while she is aware. Ex-partner had been unable to leave. They didn't have the money, nor transportation, or permanent home to retreat to. They were stuck with their abuser. MacFest 2020, he had all met up for a huge hangout and a good time. Jared/Twitch at the time had been close with one of his victims, Smarties, who was at the con and rooming with him, an ex-partner. Ex-partner is known for having chronic back problems and requires a bed or a soft surface. Despite paying their own share, Jared/Twitch had been sharing his bed only with Smarties, and while ex-partner slept on the floor. Aaron/Prototwee was there at the con. Ex-partner, Aaron/Prototwee, and me had been in an elevator on the final day. They had chosen out of frustration to spill the beans and talk about everything to Aaron/Prototwee. I had kept looking at ex-partner to make sure this is what they wanted to do. They talked about all the cheating. Jared/Twitch had been f***ing other people at the con, all the horrible things he has done. Prototwist/Aaron chose to reply with silence, ignore and pretend the conversation, but I was there, you f***ing, you can't deny it happened. You knew and chose to do nothing. Aaron Prototwee also came to work at a high school and would often talk about how hot the underage girls are, but that's a different story. Things between Jared/Twitch and ex-partner had gotten worse. He neglected her more, ignored her, kept f***ing his victims and making more victims, and refused to feed, cook, get anything for his then wife. I provided ex-partner with money, gifts, food, and whatever was needed to keep them afloat. Everyone in our friend group knew exactly what the f*** was going on and did nothing. Ex-partner had resorted to drinking to cope with how much their life hurt, sometimes to unconscious. Jared/Twitch will take advantage and rape them during their drunken states, when they could not consent and not be conscious enough to say no. I want to clarify that Coleman had come forward and spoke and clarified he has no part in Jared/Twitch's affairs, and he has recently explained. I want to mention that Lucas Gilbertson would have never returned to the social scene without my direct actions and input. I traced him to dead emails, socials, groups he had worked with and been a part of, and found a then working email he had that I understand Jared/Twitch used to contact him and bring him back to the spotlight. Jared/Twitch took all the credit and never mentioned me, out of spite and for caring for his ex-partner better than he chose to. Some people were aware and chose to do nothing, for clout, for the community. During MacFest 2020, I had successfully kidnapped ex-partner for most of the con, and made sure they were fed, cared for, loved, walked in their costume they had made by themselves, met people, and had as much fun as they could manage to have. Jared/Twitch will try and track us down, because if he's not by her, then he does not have control over her. Jared/Twitch has had a panel on Mega Man that I attended just to check on ex-partner, who sat in the back and Jared completely ignored. They had done every single piece of art ever that he had used. They provided most of whatever money they had from their own commissions, donations, and whatever could be managed. Ex-partner kept them afloat. That was repaid by Jared/Twitch trapping them in a psych ward for weeks. At the end of their relationship, ex-partner had self-harmed and was punished by being trapped alone in a horrible place. Throughout all of this period, ex-partner had Falcon caring for her. He is a genuine hero, a good person who saw what hell they had been through and rescued them. He provides them food, endless love, kindness, and an innocence I wish more people had. I am also certain, because of my then profession, that Jared/Twitch had stolen ex-partner's tax return of a couple $1,000s knowingly, and has not paid it back. On top of actually stealing several thousand when they split and not paying back anything. Jared/Twitch's new partner or partners are unaware of most of this, so I want every single person to know what he is. He deserves to be deplatformed, his channel deleted, his accounts banned, and to face consequences for his actions. Poor Smarties, while being a sex victim, had been briefly kicked out by Jared when she was inconvenient for him. I had reached out to her to help her recover, and it would have been okay until he invited her back to the group with no apology and strung her along for only more sex, while being married, of course. I wanted to be known I stayed silent out of love, respect, care, and because of the wishes of ex-partner for several years. I only have ever tried to help those in need. I want everyone to read this, to know his crimes. To know that he's a raging, screaming monster who would ignore his former wife when they would thrash in frustration and cry for hours and instead play his games with his headphone on. I want everyone to know how much of a sexual pervert and groomer he is, an abuser who will manipulate and women with strange and throw them away at moment's notice. I wish I could do more, I wish I could have done more. I only want justice for ex-partner and for anyone and everyone he has ever hurt. So we are about to reach a vital point for the entire situation, because March 20th, aside from bringing Trio's statement into the picture, also became the day in which REVO finally broke his silence. During the afternoon, all of the posts I've shown during the video up to now finally reached the official Reploid REVO Discord server. This sparked the conversation about the allegations, and due to the ongoing arguing between those who defended REVO and those who wanted an explanation, he finally stepped in. At first, it all seemed like he wanted to defuse the situation, while he asked people to remain patient while he prepared a public statement. He also mentioned how his detractors divulge all of the facts, spinning them around to turn everything against him, and how he understands the anger that has been directed towards him, blaming detractors of lying about him. However, since that very same document had been in the works for almost a month at this point, most users didn't buy this response. And so they pressed on. When asked about why there are more than 20 people holding allegations against him, he responded with, "There are a lot of people involved, but not all of them are true." And also that he's not solely at fault. Adding on to this, he affirmed that this all started because he had an unpopular opinion on Twitter about politics and that there is no proof that he has sexually harassed those people. He also assures that he has not deleted a single tweet. These all turn out to be lies because of the existence of multiple screenshots of him doing all of that. About the private streams, he said that he only took down those where his home and wife are shown to protect his family. This fact is contradicted with how every single stream was made private. Twitch then speaks about his behavior towards Virtue3D, about how people criticize him for taking down the derogatory comments made about him and his wife, and affirming that the conversation he had with them was recorded with them being aware, and saying once more that he has his statement ready, but he needs approval from outsiders to publish it. He also claims that he had never doxed either him or Vinity, which had already been proven to be a lie. Moments later, Twitch says how all the claims about him trying to hook up Matt and Vinity were a lie. This claim had already been proven to also be untrue. A while later though, people pressed him on to speak about this, and he ended up sharing his private conversation with Matt. Inadvertently, he had just proven the point that he was trying to prove wrong. This log showcased his aggressive attitude towards Virtue3D, even long after the confrontation took place, as well as how he tried to manipulate Matt. Once more, Twitch promised to take accountability for his actions. Some users started drawing comparisons between him and Yanderedev, who is also known for being in a similar situation before. To this, he replied, "I am ashamed to admit that we do share some unfortunate similarities." Although immediately after, he also said this. The conversation was far from being over, and despite responding to everything, Gilliam went on to try and justify the removal of evidence, the delays to his statement, as well as some of his actions, affirming that either his actions only happened once or that he was not aware of people being underage when flirting with them, or that the allegations, once more, were designed by people who had the purpose of quote-unquote assuming the worst and making a mockery out of him. Last but not least, During these conversations, he blames his actions on his bad habits and unhealthy addictions. Problems that he has tried to stop before, but never did so. He then goes on to say that it was never his intention to seek out minors, in the same way that he was being accused of. We will be back to this claim later on. The conversation then quickly evolved into a different topic, after Shadowrock CX was brought up. Twitch quickly responded to this, saying that he was barely involved with that, which was untrue according to SR's document. That same testimony was posted on the server, and REVO reacted to it by saying that he did not read it, while blaming Bonus Level for starting the hate campaign of Save You a Click SR. The series of reactions left a sour taste on everyone's mouth. The content creator's responses felt like deflections, as he barely gave any proof of his words, and in those occasions where he did, the evidence ended up backfiring upon him. Even worse, by saying that he had not read SR's testimony, he led some people to think that he had not been gathering up information to develop his own statement, since SR's doc was one of the very first to surface, back on March 3rd. Regarding these conversations, Virtue had prepared another answer for how REVO portrayed the conflict between Vinity, Mats, and the two of them. This tweet was then followed up by a second statement, which adds more context to the situation, and in fact, Virtue debunked every single claim done by REVO one by one, starting with Vinity supposedly being a pedo, to the story of him doxing people, to REVO saying that he did not encourage Mats to date Vinity, the supposed art theft, and Virtue getting removed from other communities. Virtue had proof to back up all of this, unlike Twitch. But right now, things are about to get even more intense. We set sail towards March 21st, the day in which this screenshot was published. These three folders, whose names I refuse to read out aloud, had been accidentally shown on stream by Reploid REVO for very brief periods of time. People were especially concerned about the last one, considering how there seemed to be even more folders inside of it. The discussion reached the Discord server once more. REVO was very quick to address the existence of the folder, by confirming that there was indeed lolly porn inside that unspeakable folder, although he doesn't own it anymore. Things took a different tone as soon as Twitch said that quote-unquote lolicon, while disgusting to most, it's not legal since it's fictional. Needless to say, these statements turned on the alarms of every single person in that conversation. A user asked if he had been attracted to children before, which he answered with, "No, and I have never been." I have said this many times during the video, but make sure to remember this statement as we keep going forward. With the folder now unveiled to the world, more content creators and main public figures of the Mega Man community decided to speak up. Protodude posted a statement in which he expressed his disappointment with REVO's actions. Later that day, Jeeps also left a statement of his own, adding even more details to other statements posted a few days prior. We then now move on to March 22nd. MZ Circuit had made a discovery. REVO had resorted to banning everyone who commented on the existence of the porn folder screenshot, and this then led to people to draw even more comparisons between him and YandereDeb. And then everything went silent for a few days. 3 days to be exact. That was until on March 25th we got another brand new statement. Just like the latest ones, it was the story of a very close friend of REVO. This document goes into detail about an incident that was brought up on past statements, this being the time when Bonus and REVO decided to move. They hit me up asking if I could help them to move, and I said sure. Jared offers taking me out to a Japanese restaurant to get like sushi or whatever, so I said sure, that sounds good. He explained that he only had a few more things to pack and that we just gotta head to the storage unit after to get the rest of the stuff, then unload at his new place. I live an hour and a half away, but I'm thinking this would take around like 4 hours tops, so I didn't care. I got to his brother's place where he was staying only to find out he still had a shit ton more stuff to pack. Poor Lucy was suffering from back pain, having to do all the work for him, so we had to wait like 2+ hours just waiting for his slow ass to get his shit together so me and Kyle can bring it to the truck. Finally, after he finishes, we head out to the storage unit, and as soon as we get there, the internet company calls him saying that they were gonna show up to set up the internet at the new place, so Jared had to leave and let them in. So me, Lucy and Kyle were left to get all of his shit out of the truck. Poor Lucy was ignoring her pain and moving stuff into the truck and organizing it so it was all secure back then. Mind you, most of this shit was Jared's with his Mega Man collection and junk. So after 2 hours, we finally finished getting everything in the truck and waited for Jared to come back and drive it since he rented it and it was under his name. While we waited an extra hour, he kept giving excuses that he had to wait for them and that it's gonna take a while to get back. His bird was still with us, so we had to have Kyle's car running with the heat on so they can keep themselves and the bird warm so it didn't die. Finally, I made the decision and told him I'll drive the truck to the new place. That way, we aren't waiting an extra hour. I shouldn't have been driving it because it wasn't under my name, but we were already sitting there for over 3 hours and we were getting impatient. We get to the place only to find out the internet guys were already done and left. He was just waiting there doing nothing. So I shrugged it off and started helping with moving everything in. Lucy's back pain was worse from loading Jared's shit in the truck from the storage unit, so she couldn't lift much. Halfway through unloading, Kyle started puking like crazy in the bathroom from lifting too much and had to lay down. And Jared was lazy and weak, so he will bring up a couple of things and sit for like 20 minutes at a time. He wanted to give up for the night and leave the truck in the middle of the parking lot overnight, blocking a bunch of parked cars. It was already getting late, and I had to work at 7 AM the next day, but I wasn't a fan of that idea, so I had to unload the other half of the truck by myself. After doing all that work for him, he orders me McDonald's instead of getting sushi like we planned. When he left to drop the truck off, Lucy knew a chicken sandwich wasn't worth all that trouble, so she gave me and Kyle $100 each out of her own pocket and thanked us. I didn't get home until around midnight. On March 20th, Spring Queen, who had been making art for the Reploid REVO channel, announced that she was no longer part of the team. Just 1 day later, Control-Alt-Crit also revealed that they had cut ties with Twitch. In fact, I contacted Sean from Control-Alt-Crit and he was kind to add more context to what happened behind the curtains. Allow me to read through his words. Twitch was never a part of the Control-Alt-Crit team. He was a partner that provided cameos and advertisements for our channel. Twitch never once provided any substantial material for 21XX, the Mega Man X tabletop RPG, other than his character's likeness for cameos in our original video series, which was during the pre-alpha of the tabletop game's development. Outside of promotional events, like the Mega Man Awards, this individual has had no stake in the development of our game. I want that to be crystal clear. As of March 22, 2024, Twitch of Reploid REVO was removed as a Control-Alt-Crit partner on the Control-Alt-Crit Discord due to the public outcry of his past behavior and actions within the larger Mega Man community. We caught wind of things relatively late, because we don't frequent X as a platform often, and much of the drama was flourishing there before it reached the Discord space. It took a bit more time to make the changes to our websites, since we update them at the end of each month, but our official company stance is that we have removed Reploid REVO as a partner on our website, and we scrapped their art and contributions from the 21XX Foundation Guide for its version 0.4.1 update. At this time, Season 1 and 2 of our original 21XX video series, which had cameos from Twitch, have been removed from YouTube and unpublished from Twitch, the platform. And all of our older streams featuring Twitch, the person, have also been removed. I was harassed by individuals in the community because at the time before our tweet, we had not made a response. Control-Alt-Crit is not a single person, it is a business, and our focus is on the 21XX TTRPG's development. I don't take personal vendettas on people with my own brand. That's immoral no matter how people look at it. Our team needed time to work on our solution to all of this. Personally, I hope those that have been physically or emotionally harmed by Twitch get the opportunity to speak out and heal from all of this. But we had no scope on any of what took place in the community, and outside how little I knew Twitch, I had no idea what was taking place until the tweets started pouring out. I no longer have any sort of contact with them, and I would like to keep it that way. March 29th, however, was another very important date for the situation. A user by the name of Ditsy, who was for a very long time the head moderator of Reploid REVO's Discord server, broke silence. Inside the document, there is a very thorough explanation of how Gilliam's current girlfriend was not aware of any of this until now, which led him to breaking ties with Ditsy after she told him to. Ditsy also confirms the veracity of some of the previous docs from REVO's close friends, like Trio, the whole incident with his moving, and the way he treated bonus level in the past. Allow me to show you the contents of this statement. My name is Ditsy. I am a moderator in Twitch's Discord. Have been for a while. You might know me better as Ribbons. We were also friends until recently. I was at first upset about that, but after all that's come out and all that I have realized about my experiences with him, I am actually okay with that. Besides, if I had cut off from him, I wouldn't have mod access anymore and a lot of proof would have been lost or buried. I am still incredibly hurt about how and when he threw me out though. I wouldn't have forgiven him for that alone, never mind the grooming. I want to start this off by quickly going over when he threw me out of the group. When he did this, I was going through a horrible harassment situation with this guy named Hope So Sure. You might have seen some of the claims before they were deleted. Basically, we had multiple conversations before banning him for uncomfortable RP and spamming admin DMs. He then got the wise idea to hop in and out of my personal server, even though I had blocked him. His friends also tried making us see reason by constantly arguing with us. Also found out that they walked my Twitter for any mention of the server to go and harass those who were interested. That wasn't included in the thread as the one harassed wanted nothing to do with this. He has thankfully declared a ceasefire. However, I still need to mention this as it does somewhat relate to current events. You'd think a friend would stay by your side during this situation, right? Well, no. These were the final messages between me and him. Of course, at the time, I wanted to help him through a situation. I thought he was innocent. I hope all his other victims can forgive him for that. As you can see, he has admitted to some past relations we had. It will probably surprise no one tell you that he did the same thing with me. I was around 16 or 17 when we first began interacting. Back then, the curse word corner was still around in the main server. I was pretty easily let in, as all I had to do was click a button. There were no moderators manually allowing people in, it was all faith-based. I can't prove this, of course, because there is no screenshots for this time. Even if there were, I doubt I'd be able to find them, but yeah, everything said in Tio's statement is true. I didn't realize it at the time, but he did actually know I was a minor. I had mentioned it to his mods a few times. I did always find it kinda weird that they apparently never mentioned it to him, and he started freaking out once I said that in chat. I don't have evidence of the original conversation or anything from the original corner, but I wasn't banned. I was actually invited to the private corner later on. The only evidence I have left of being there is this. For the record, I don't think I ever actually posted lollies. I think he was just joking around, but yeah, this talk was pretty normal. I'm sure you've seen several other statements about some relations we had previously. That is putting it conservatively. It's really uncomfortable to think about how early this started. How I was okay with it because he was my favorite YouTuber at the time. He told me all of this was consensual, and Vonus was okay with it. No, I never thought of asking directly if this was true, as she knew that what we were doing and they still talked to me. Even invited me to their birthday party. This was about ERP specifically. I was still 19 at the time. All of what you saw here was true as well. I wasn't there for the moving, but I was obviously there in the hotel room. I never took into account that Bonus was actually being chained to him by their financials. I always thought that they were a good couple until he made that Heaven server for them. The Heaven is where he discussed a lot of mental health struggles. A lot of stuff that we should have not known about. Trio wasn't on the server, but Jeeps was, and can back me on this. I was basically dragged into this downward spiral of a marriage. I of course stayed as I never wanted to seem unsupportive, and I cared about the both of them. Even if things were uncomfortable, I figured that friends stick to these things together, and frankly, if he was just talking about himself and his side of the marriage struggles, it probably would have been okay. But no, I knew way too much about their problems. I have no evidence of this server existing, as no one took screenshots for obvious reasons. I hate to do this, but you'll have to believe me on this one. This server was also where I heard Twitch's side of the story, and frankly only Twitch's. I never even bothered to listen to Vonus, as by the time we started explaining things over text, I had already heard Twitch crying over the VC with Sync and Jam. He was just sobbing as he said Bonus had cheated on him. It killed me to hear that. I want to apologize to Bonus for never hearing them out. I should have listened when you tried to tell your side that night. You knew he was taking advantage of me and told me, but I was not listening at the time. I'm sorry for abandoning you like that. All this time I thought he respected me since he brought me into so much, but given the fact he actively lied about our relations, says otherwise. This was what he said to Bonus. Not sure that this was joking around, dude. And that was hardly even 3 months later. He also sent me shit like this in between the times he said I was too young and that he wasn't aiming for me. And before anyone goes, we don't know the context, or, well, how did you respond, we need the full screenshot. I was 19, getting told this by a 30-year-old man who was my favorite YouTuber at the time. It doesn't really matter if I was into or not, I won't deny, I was as he was as, again, my favorite YouTuber. A grown-ass man should not be talking to someone in their teens like this, much less someone who they met at 16, 17 years of age. He called me his friend. It still stings to see that after he threw me out the way he did. Friends don't abandon others like that, and actual friends don't groom others and bring them into really uncomfortable stuff. Also, you're probably wondering what that PDF is. I gave him $20 to write me an explicit fic between my character and Jolt. Yes, I do still have it, yes, I can provide proof, but I'd rather not show it, as I still love this character to bits. I don't want them associated with this. Oh, and you guys wanna know what else I know? His current girlfriend, who I won't name so she won't be harassed, started dating him 9 months after the breakup with Bonus. I won't lie, at the time I was happy he was getting over what I thought was Bonus cheating. It never really hit me until now how close the times were, from the breakup he cried over the BC to dating this new girl. But now that I'm actually using my thinking cap, I can see it was pretty close. I also figured she knew about the, now previous, group dynamic. Obviously, given our last messages, she did not. Now you might be wondering why I trusted Twitch so much that I was willing to defend him in this situation originally. It's because he stopped another grooming attempt on me. His name at the time was Bile, he is not Bile3D, and we were rather close. He was another mod on the team, I wasn't a mod at the time, and was really close to Twitch and the others as well. We got to chatting, he was 20 at the time and I was 17. Apparently his reasoning was that he forgot 18 was the age of consent, since he lived over in the EU all his life. You can see his entry here. I was the second incident. Honestly, I kinda felt bad for how I got him kicked out at the time. People were discussing how they wanted to make servers for him and stuff, invite him to chats. He was really nice and almost exactly like Twitch in a sense. It was awful. It made me feel like dirt. The only reason I ever said anything is because I casually mentioned what happened in a private chat to the other user that had the exact same experience with him. I also now notice he never mentioned that the person he sent the second set of graphics to was underaged. That's probably why the members were so forgiving, I guess anyways. I'm now looking at those last few messages. The only reason he banned him was to protect my brand, which makes sense. If you surround yourself with people who send pics to kids, people might be catching on. I hate going back to these memories. It's all so I really hope that this is the last I ever have to think back on this. The vile part at least. Twitch will probably hound me for a while. This month has been quite draining. I hope that this gives solace to other victims of Twitch and his bullshit. I know I have wronged a lot of people in the past for him. I don't expect forgiveness from anyone for standing by him all this time, and for otherwise being an asshole and not listening. For hiding things because he asked me to. Just know that I'm sorry. I hope this gives some validity to all the other claims made. If you see Twitch, stay away from him, please. Ditsy published this very statement on the Reploid REVO server that night, and then went on to unleash an attack on the server. They gave permissions to multiple users, and went on to remove every single member inside except for the mod team. When the sun rose on the 30th of March, the Reploid REVO official server had only 20 people left. Furthermore, all of those users were not kicked, but banned, which meant that Twitch will have to unban them one by one in order to reconstruct the server. Twitch notified people of this through his Discord bio. Super Ali, who was one of the first users to speak up, also posted more evidence of her conversation with REVO about the infamous porn folder. Even though he wanted to bring back his server, things were not looking good for Twitch, even inside. Most of the moderators didn't approve of his behavior, and slowly left the team one by one. As we approach the end of the month, ShadowrockCX uploaded a teaser of an upcoming video in which he meant to add even more context to the incidents that REVO brought up on his server a few days ago, as well as everything involving Save You a Click SR. Oh, and this guy said he was making a documentary. Who is he anyway? April 1st saw the first actual report of the situation, made by Neo Eclair, who managed to raise awareness about the conflict. So much that Reploid REVO's channel started receiving comments about the situation. Twitch was very quick to delete them though, so Neo's logs are the only way to see them nowadays. Virtue3D also posted more evidence of REVO being a creep with people. However, a very big reveal was looming on the horizon. A user by the name of Dr. Rollbot was contacted by both the Honorable and Virtue. Rollbot was a very close person to Gilliam, and so it was mentioned how there was a ton of evidence through the DMs they had exchanged. And so, on April 2nd, those DMs were revealed to the public. This will be the only document that I will not be linking on the description, due to the extremely NSFW nature of it. You can still find it on Twitter, but do so at your own risk. The file showcases 5 years of conversations between these two users, with conclusive evidence on the case. Evidence that confirms all of the allegations against REVO, which include liking minors, grooming people, sharing and possessing lolly porn, being racist, homophobic, transphobic, cheating on bonus level, acting like a perv, sexting, admitting to have been spying on Bonus's private conversations while they were not looking, and many, many other horrible things. The logs also showcase Gilliam's thoughts behind doors during this whole ordeal. His conversations with Rollbat prove that he had lied about not mentioning bonus level a single time after their breakup, as well as showcasing the resentment towards the people who called him out for the Get Bent tweet. However, what I want you to pay attention to is how he discussed the most recent events, because this was essentially a snippet of that elusive Reploid REVO statement. From his point of view, he is the victim, who has been abused by evil, vindictive, manipulative people. Despite hurting many, as Rollbat points out, he responds that he is also hurt, and that he is now being harassed the same way he was as a kid, then proceeds to justify his actions on his poor mental health and bad habits. As soon as Rollbat tried to talk some sense into him, REVO suddenly became very angry, thus leading to the end of the conversation. At this point, the community already had clear evidence for everything that Twitch had been accused of. However, these conversations were conclusive proof of the worst side of Reploid REVO. They showcased not only a consistently terrible behavior, but also that he had indeed lied about many things, almost everything, when defending himself. After all of that flew over, it was confirmed that this screenshot of a person acting like an incel and overall being very racist online was indeed Gilliam. And even later that day, SapphireStars11 posted her testimony about the situation, so allow me to pass her words on to you all. Hello there, my name is SapphireStars11 and I am an artist within the Mega Man community, who is also the channel artist for ShadowRockCX, and like many others, have been affected by Reploid REVO. While my situation with him is not as vitriolic and horrid as he has done with others, REVO is still going around and pretending he had no involvement in the event that had affected me. To give some small context, when my involvement in the situation with REVO began, I was in college. I wasn't fully involved in the Mega Man community as much as I wanted to be, let alone do much with the ShadowRockCX channel. Because of this, there will be some jumps in the timeline. Around the early parts of 2020, there was an account that made itself known called Save You a Click SR. At first, it seemed like a parody account. However, it quickly went into defame ShadowRock. In the process of doing so, the account owner took my artwork that I specifically made for SR's channel banner and edited it. The art I made is from 2016 for the channel's 8th anniversary, and while it's not the best, it's still my work. I never gave anyone permission to use it except SR, along with anyone else within the crew. So imagine my shock and anger, I had to see this occur. Furthermore, the account tried to blackmail ShadowRock. This also includes an entire document to out him. Keep in mind, ShadowRock already removed the channel mentioned in the doc. However, this could have been talked about privately instead of going with anonymous and public sabotage. At the time, none of us had any indication as to who was behind that account. Nothing gave us a clue to anyone who would do this, leaving us to just attempt moving on as the account ceased activity due to SR not giving what the user wanted. So for a while the account became a ghost town, and with the Mega Man Awards happening later that year, there had been more important things to focus on. REVO was the one hosting it, and even invited ShadowRock to be a host in it. It was meant to be an event for the community, and so he took up the offer. I even managed to slip in a recommendation for a friend or two, which I still stand by, even thanking REVO for creating the awards show. Although looking back on it, it hurts to rewatch it. A year had passed, and with no signs of the account on the horizon, I was able to continue improving my work and focus on college. Slowly but surely, I tried to inch myself back into the community without and conversing with other members while balancing work, eventually leading myself into REVO server. In REVO server, I mainly posted artwork, and I cannot post any screenshots regarding my interactions there since currently the head admin banned/removed most people in it. The server is also off limits as well, thus this part of the story won't have any screenshots. As I wasn't a mainstay in the server, some regulars at the time wanted to get to know me more. I even got invited to a DM called Magical REVO Girls, for most of the girls on the server at the time to just chat and befriend one another. And time in the DM was fun. I could not respond all the time due to college work, although I did my best to at least read as much as I could. Fast forward to March 2021, to where the girls wanted to have a voice call in BC. As far as I can remember, this was the first time I had been on a voice call in REVO server. Considering I wasn't in the best of spirits, a call I figured would be a good way to distract myself. So I joined in, and at first it was between me, a couple of girls from the DM, and then a few others. A total of 5 people with the addition of myself. But they were people I knew from prior talks about art. We were joking around and having fun, that is, until REVO appeared. The mood shifted instantly on the turn of a dime. It was incredibly eerie as everyone was trying to talk to him, but if you disagreed with him, what you said was ridiculed. We were trying to play a word guessing game, although I couldn't connect to it. REVO seemed to have experience with it, so I tried asking him what to do. Everyone else had been dogpiling in there, talking over one another, and then some leaving me, having an extremely difficult time to speak. He eventually responded, yet it came out in a deep, grizzled, annoyed, and scary what. It came out of nowhere, completely catching me off guard. I don't remember if anyone else did anything, however it horrified me. As a friendly reminder, this was my first call not only in his server, but with REVO himself. I never really spoke with him on a casual level prior, and with the aforementioned part of not being in the best spirits, it crushed me. It didn't matter that I was only trying to ask a simple question, I was treated like an annoyance, a pest. Thankfully, I was called for dinner shortly after this occurred, and I left the call without saying a word. I then left the server and I never looked back, and with all that occurred in the later years, I am grateful I left when I did. I don't have any recording of the call, even though I wish I did. I don't record people unless I've been given permission to do so, so unfortunately, this is the best I can provide, my own recollection of the events. Furthermore, when I was recalling the situation, I said to a few friends this occurred in 2018 or 2019. It wasn't until I asked the friend who invited me to the Magical REVO Girls DM on when it happened that everything clicked. I suppressed memories of the incident, mainly the time it occurred because of the incident itself, along with other real-life things that happened long after. It still happened, and my friend remembers it as well, thankfully. If this happened to anyone else, I am so sorry. You didn't deserve to be treated this way by such a bully. Should be able to ask for something, whether it be of help or for information shamelessly, without being judged or yelled at. With this all in mind, why did it take me so long to say anything on this part? Mainly because of real life. There were a lot of more pressing matters at hand, in addition to how people were treated in REVO's community. Furthermore, with the whole thing going down in a call, there was no evidence. I left immediately afterwards because I didn't want anything to do with him, out of embarrassment and shock. Maybe even fear. I'm not so sure due to the situation happening 3 years ago, but regardless, time moves on, and it did after this event. At this point, I was finishing up my college degree, and I finally did so in late 2022. This left me preparing for graduation and the what's next phase of my life, meaning January 2023 up until May of the same year was extremely busy. It was at this point where Shadowrock was informed via an anonymous tip that REVO was the mastermind behind the Save You a Click account, and I had no idea this occurred. I wouldn't be aware of this until January 28th, 2024. This is when I learned the truth of the matter, and that REVO was not only involved with the account, but also a part of editing my artwork. Most likely, it was Prototoy, as REVO confirmed he was the owner of the account. I absolutely stunk beyond what I felt 3 years ago. I wanted my art removed from that account since I didn't want the lingering reminder of it. And after speaking it further with SR, I wanted to talk to REVO about it. I was scared of doing it alone, especially if it were to be boys, considering what happened prior between us, and SR decided he would join with me in efforts to talk with them. And I'm very grateful he did. Thus, the following day, the three of us were in a Discord DM, and we spoke about the situation at hand. I was still extremely nervous, however, I tried to be as polite and calm as possible. From here, not only did REVO say he wanted to be deleted, but also SR officially declared the channel would no longer be associated with Reploid REVO. Deep down, while I was relieved and I still wished the best for him, I had that sinking feeling REVO was lying about something, that he only wanted the account to be deleted to remove evidence of his involvement. That's when I went to take screenshots and record videos of that Save You a Click account, which is what I provided earlier in this document, just in case. Since then, so many allegations have come out against him from various people I've met in the community and other strangers. With these allegations, people have been demanding answers from REVO, and eventually he responded in his own server, claiming that he didn't read Shadowrock's document while also denying any involvement in the stuff regarding him, including the Save You a Click incident. These screenshots provided in the link are not mine, being provided by someone else. However, I circled the points to focus on in blue. This chapter leaves us on the current day, April 1st, 2024 at 1:07 AM. As for now, I'm not sure what will happen now. This community has been a safe haven for me and many others. To see all of this go down, let alone be involved and be a victim myself, has made the past month extremely draining. To see that new allegations, documents, statements, and what have you come out constantly was not only shocking, to say the least, but horrifying. It almost didn't feel real, it felt as if it was in a movie. I've seen many videos and statements of various allegations of content creators over the years. However, I never thought I would be in something like this myself, let alone with people I know and or care about. Now we move closer to present time, to April 3rd to be exact. Virtua3D had some more news, as he had an anonymous invitation to the roleplay Discord server that Reploid REVO used to own. Inside of it, more examples of him sharing some strong words were found, as well as some very racist comments. On April 4th, MJ Circuit shared a personal testimony regarding Mugen0x, which was said to be REVO's best friend, as well as part of the moderation team. What figures inside the document is the story of how they both met and started dating. Their experience through Second Life is also what led both to meet REVO. As time went on, the cracks began to show. MZ Circuit adds many details about being forced into sexual relationships by Mugen, as well as sharing the experience of the night she was sexually assaulted by him. She was then accused by Mugen, as well as his friend circle, of calling him a rapist, despite being very clear that she only accused him of assaulting her. Mugen spread the word around the rest of the group, which led to REVO outcasting her from the community on Second Life. The 4th of April also brought along 2 videos from content creators about the situation. The first one being an overview of the whole incident by TheGamePlaya, being accompanied by NeoEclair and ShadowrockCX, and then Who is exactly Reploid REVO by SRCX, who also wanted to express his own feelings about the situation. What's truly interesting is that this last video caught Twitch's attention, and he decided to go on and leave a comment, saying that he had yet to watch the video, but he felt that he was being misrepresented, denying ever grooming anyone, which is a bold thing to say at this point, considering the amount of evidence there is about the case. However, this wasn't the end of the conversation, since people were quick to reply. In fact, Shadowrock left a reply, pointing out how REVO had not listened to him for the second time, yet he had enough free time to delete evidence and attack people behind their backs. To this, REVO replied with this message. He, once more, asked people for patience to put out his statement, as he had been doing for the past month. More importantly, he expressed the desire to speak to Shadowrock privately and explain his point of view in a more proper way. This also led him to ping SR through Coleman's Discord server. However, SR refused the offer, which prompted REVO to leave this last comment. Very well, I'll watch the video, but my offer to speak still stands. To anyone willing to hear me. And yes, I did insult you, I do not agree with a lot of your choices and actions. I'm not asking to be your friend. I'm not trying to defend myself. I just want to provide what I can. As for the private server, I'm just trying to reach out to anyone willing to hear me. No one will listen when I'm telling you I have critical information. We are closing in to the very end of the situation, which is none other than April 5th. On that day, Bear, also known as the person that REVO was talking about on those Second Life messages that were posted a few weeks back, posted a personal statement on the situation. Experiences like meeting to each other Second Life when they were both late teenagers. Claire also adds details on her difficult upbringing, being molested as a child by two people, which led to being mentally scarred for her whole life. I will let Claire's words take the lead here. When I start my relationships with anyone, I immediately start with I don't have a high sex drive, due to a medical hormone imbalance. And, like always, it's I understand. Sadly, it's never the case. Eventually, things got rough with our relationship and he went to a friend for help. In return, Jared comes to me the next day claiming he cheated on me. I am an understanding individual, yes, I was upset he cheated on me, but I was always willing to lend an ear and let them do better and better themselves. It was after the third time he cheated on me that I decided to pull the plug on our relationship. Claire then goes on to respond to the logs showed earlier in March. My favorite line is I wouldn't cheat on Claire. No, you'll do it 3 times instead of once. I don't make advances, it's true, it might have to do with the mentioned past trauma. But you became that stereotype. Looking back at this, I was young and yes, I probably should have put out a little more, but I was stuck in this shell and I was afraid of stepping out. But I also did not know I was metaphorically stuck in my own headspace. Jared should have spoken to me about his problems, as a growing relationship should do. Instead, he went to a different friend of his and they Jared labeled it as cheating, so I'm going to label it as it is. He did this 3 times and he admitted it to me 3 times. It was only the 3rd time that I told myself he isn't going to change. Apparently, he hasn't changed at all these past few years. I also hear that you don't do anything with your SOs anymore. I hear you're just a face on the computer, distracted and that can't be bothered. Computers are a distraction, there are a million things to do on it, and with my ADHD brain with no meds, the possibilities were limitless. So yeah, I was a pretty bad girlfriend, I would admit. I had my faults and I didn't pay my partner the attention they probably needed or deserved. But to her silly, consent or not, then dump her ass and laugh about it, and then proceeded to say I deserved to get cheated on, really changes the perspective of things. I still believe if we talk about it instead of going off and venting to my friends about it, you'd probably not be in this position today, Jared. After addressing a few more screenshots, last but not least, Claire shows a couple of her personal stories that add up to the logs of her Second Life, so allowed me to read through them. I was visiting Jared for the first time at his home. His mother was a wonderful lady, and his dad not so much. Holy shit, his dad scared me to death. His brother was a sweetie too. Anyway, one morning I decided I wanted to shower before the day started, get a fresh take on the day and go out and do couples things. I have always been a firm believer of showers are for cleaning, not f***ing in or any of the sort. I'm showering, lathered up, and Jared undresses, gets in the shower behind me without knowledge until I legit turn around. I saw him. Fight or flight kicked in and I left the shower. He came into the space I was occupying with zero consent. I always found showers a sacred place for me to be clean. I believe this is a coping mechanism due to my childhood story. With my current partner, he's in complete understanding and has showered with me to conquer my fear of being a shower with my partner. I am getting better, but it's difficult, no thanks to you, Jared. If I was in the wrong for this, I'd say I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry towards him, for he has done many things that have really stuck with me. Like throwing a temper tantrum over a script in Second Life and almost breaking my laptop in the process. Jared shows up for a surprise visit, planned by my mother and him. He's hanging out in my room with me and playing World of Warcraft at the time, and he's playing Second Life, working on his scripts and such for his sim. Well, it's quiet, nothing big is going on, when suddenly Jared gets mad. He pushes the little standee my laptop is on away from him, knocks an entire cup of water on the floor, and storms out of my room. Now I'm over here like, what the f***? I get up, start cleaning up his mess, to which he comes back and proceeds to say, let me clean that up. I told him, no, let me do it, because I was already pretty mad at him for almost damaging my laptop. I clean up the mess, pull the laptop back to me, tell this man to come back into my room and sit down. He steps in, he sits, and I simply ask, what's going on? He proceeded to spill to me over a script on Second Life that isn't working as it is intended to work, so I promptly took the laptop and with one simple click of a button deleted a line of code that was causing the script to act up. So instead of throwing your angry tantrum, next time why don't you just ask for help? Because that would save you a glass of water. I'd say a laptop, but the laptop is still fine. The fact of the matter is, you don't care for anyone's personal belongings. You don't even care for the individual. He also gave me shit for eating 2 bagels in one day. I can't help that I enjoy a good carby treat here and there. I hear they're good on keto, Jared. Following this, on April 5th, screenshots of what used to be REVO's role-playing server were uploaded to Twitter. Aside from showcasing more of Twitch's usual stuff, this specific message, posted after REVO left, points out the possibility that he ended his cat's life, although there isn't more evidence on this matter as of now. April 6th is our second to last day, and on this afternoon, a new statement showed up. A statement from a user named Flower Girl was uploaded that day. Inside the document, she explains how she met Twitch after watching one of his videos, which prompted her to become a massive fan of him. Flower Girl speaks about the DMs that both of them shared over Discord, and for a long time, nothing strange seemed to happen. However, one day in November 2021, Twitch started sex role-playing with her out of nowhere. She also shares some notable experiences like REVO's owner masturbating while on voice chat, and manipulating this user to get pictures of her to the point of nicknaming her Dollface. All while being married to Bonus Level at the time, or at least saying that he was married. And so we have reached what is, probably, the nail in the coffin for Reploid REVO. A document that had been talked about multiple times during the past month. Or that's what everyone thought, since during that day no statement was published. However, it finally did a few days later. For the past month, Bonus's document was mentioned from time to time. When it came to be, we finally got to know the story of the closest person to REVO. The document is 103 pages long at the time I'm recording this, so I will be showing the most important bits of information, and just like I said at the very beginning of the video, everything will be linked down in the description in case you want to dive into it by yourselves. The document begins with Bonus, also known as Lucifer or Lucy, detailing a chronological order of their time with REVO. Lucy mentions how during 2017, Twitch was actively cheating on them, even arranging meetings, to have intercourse with women and flirting on Second Life almost daily. Lucy says that they tried to have a conversation about it with Gilliam, but the result was Bonus getting scolded. They confess that they gave in just to avoid being verbally aggressed by Twitch. In 2018, the moving to Ohio took place, and both Twitch and Lucy moved with one of Twitch's friends. Lucy says, Gidget had promised them that there was a good job market and the roof over our head would be stable. I protested to possibly find another way because not only I was uncomfortable around his friend who I didn't know well, Jared told me to shut the up and accept that there is no other choice. He bribed to me that there will be a new dog to play with every now and then to lift my spirits. I submitted regardless of this because of his aggression, and he raised his hands. He claimed he would never hurt me, but he would do physical harm-like motions knowing I am an abuse victim. As a result of this move, this severed any convenient contact with my family and friends because I could no longer visit them easily. I have a very hard time reaching out to people to begin with, and this isolation has resulted in complete emotional dependency on Jared. Lucy also details how their life in Ohio was not pleasant at all, since they were put into an unhygienic environment. Thus, they tried to leave twice, but REVO saw them pack their bags and promptly unpacked them. Bonus also confirmed that despite Twitch saying so, they never had an actual marriage, only a ceremony. Bonus's document also confirms many claims raised at REVO, like bringing more people into the relationship without asking, which often resulted in confrontation, diffused by REVO by swearing that he would stop talking to women. However, he would then go on to flirt with people online, a claim that was already known thanks to the massive amount of evidence about it. Bonus adds many screenshots about those incidents along the way, while also confirming the existence of REVO's public porn server, which also ties in with Ditsy's statement. Their financial situation was not good due to the apparent lack of commitment from Twitch to find a job that wasn't at a desk. This led Bonus to open up a Patreon and draw out about the Reploid REVO channel, as well as NSFW content, this being a desperate solution. Things worsened when Twitch used money from Lucy's deceased grandmother to pay for bills related to his car, which prompted Lucy to try and leave once more, the attempt resulting in Twitch stopping them once more. Bonus also shows evidence that REVO used to take pictures of them naked and shared them without their consent, even during a situation where Lucy was intoxicated. The document also highlights the incident that happened while both of them tried to go back to New Jersey. This is when the Get Bent incident took place. Bonus confesses that there was an attempt to stop Gilliam from sending this tweet, which led to a violent reaction. The aftermath of the tweet caught Bonus on the blast radius, and Twitch, in an attempt to defend Bonus level, put out a document to address the situation. I will come back to this later. Lucy then shows proof about what their drawings at the time came from, this being a now deleted list made by Gilliam. The combination of all the events in this incident threw Bonus into a very poor state of mind, which worsened even further since allegedly REVO was very confrontational whenever someone tried to help Bonus level in any way or form. Bonus was also apparently forced by REVO to befriend his own friends, resulting in a very long discussion where Twitch yelled at them for 2 hours. Bonus also confirms that Twitch had commissioned Rollbot to draw naked art of them. In 2021, Lucy was again stopped by REVO when trying to run away, hiding their pills while saying that they were not themselves anymore. During this time, Twitch caught COVID and Bonus had to take care of him. They describe it like this. He had COVID around the end of March. I tended to him 24/7 while I also had COVID and had exhaustion. He is a high-risk patient because he has obesity. I figured I still had my strength to move. I will monitor him around the clock and supplement him with vitamins and medicine. He has not supported me until he would have died. He has done nothing but ruin my life and treated me as a hostage for free art and a free life in caretaker. After, Twitch had a fight with his brother, and Lucy speaks about how they tried saving money to try and move away faster, as well as changing their legal name. After this, Bonus tried to break the relationship once and for all, and confronted him about it. The document also narrates how Twitch abused Lucy multiple times during sexual intercourse. In March 2022, Falcon had told Twitch about Bonus's intentions of moving out with him, which led to the harassment that Falcon himself talked about in his testimony. But Bonus adds more context, like how Prototwee used to send him pictures of planes crashing to mock him whenever he spoke, or jams messages to Lucy. The events led to Lucy trying to confront Twitch about the situation, taking a more pacific approach since, according to them, he had no controls of their actions anymore. However, this turned out to be like this, because he had people to apparently go and attack Falcon as well as defend Revo until the very end. Lucy admits to have adopted self-harm as a coping mechanism, which they regret nowadays. They sent pictures to Revo of, for example, their leg carved with the phrases that his friends had sent to them during past days. This prompted Twitch to call the police in fear that Lucy would commit suicide, which is something that they have never said. Bonus was held in the psych ward for 7 days after this happened. With this being the end of their story together, Bonus completes their document with evidence against many of the claims that Revo has said recently. Claims like the supposed harassment over emails, which never happened, him being the breadwinner of the two, which Bonus refutes by showing proof of Revo's reluctance to find a job, and how he used money from his mother's inheritance, from the wedding ceremony money, and so on. Bonus also apologizes for taking part in the Save You Ugly SR incident, and to finalize the statement, proves that Revo tried to ruin Virtue 3D's life. Document ends with a letter to the community. And, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the story so far. Although all of what you have seen up until now is the information that was publicly available through social media. Now allow me to show you the stories of those who had yet to speak up about the incident. While some of them were okay with me sharing their names on this video, others have asked me to keep them as anonymous, and so I will not reveal their identity. Let's begin with Tess's testimony, the person who posted the very first allegation against Reploid REVO. He not only agreed to voice over an extended testimony, but also has edited the chunk of video that you're about to see now.
Hello, my name is Tess, but if you were around the Reploid REVO server during the time that I was active there, you might recognize me as JadePawClip. Honestly, it's kind of weird talking about this. Not because I'm reluctant to do so, but I didn't actually anticipate things getting this far. I made my tweet with the expectation that, at best, it might reach a few of my followers and convince them to steer clear of Jared. Instead, I unwittingly began a snowball effect of allegations coming out left and right, with seemingly no end in sight even to this day. That being said, I'm here today to give my official statement regarding my involvement with the situation. I've refrained from making my own proper testimony for some time, mostly because I was getting very stressed between my personal life and the abrupt explosion of Jared as a discussed topic, but as the original whistleblower, I feel pretty responsible for starting all of this, so I intend on seeing things through to the end. I'd like to preface my statement by reiterating the fact that I, unfortunately, do not have any of my old DMs with Jared. I was stupid and inexperienced with this kind of stuff at the time, so I never thought to save any screenshots because I didn't think they were bad. We'll get more into that later, of course, but everything that I'm about to say is purely testimonial. Hopefully the slew of proof that has come from other people will lend credence to my side of the story regardless. I'm not the type of person to lie about this stuff, and many of my friends can attest to that. So, with that all out of the way, let me tell you the story of one very, very bad bee. I joined Twitter during January of 2020. I had just turned 18 a month ago, and I had been a longtime fan of Mega Man during my younger years. I stumbled across Jared's YouTube channel, Reploid REVO, not too long after. It was there that I found his Twitter account, and I soon came to hear that he had been in some sort of controversy with another person. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Jared had allegedly been engaging in very transphobic remarks, as well as being incredibly weird about the Zero CL ship, which is between a grown-ass man and a literal child, by the way. Obviously, this was very concerning to hear, so after listening to a secondhand account of the events, I decided to shoot my shot and brave Jared's DMs to see if I could hear his side and get a better understanding of what happened. To my surprise, he actually did respond. We moved to Discord because I find Twitter to be highly unreliable when it comes to notifying me of new DMs, and we talked more about the situation there. His interpretation of the series of events was very interesting, to say the least. He completely misconstrued what Megan had been saying about him and why they were upset in the first place. And when I mentioned his misgendering of them and his refusal to correct himself because, and I quote, "I have a hard time respecting the pronouns of people I no longer respect, get bent," he completely ignored that. I wasn't friends with Megan back then like I am now, so I took Jared's word and believed that they were just acting poorly because they were still a minor at the time, and I thought nothing more of it. After that, we talked a bit about other things, and he offered to invite me to his server since I was a fan of his content and Mega Man in general. I accepted. Unfortunately. I'd like to pause here for a minute and talk about my experience in the server itself, because I haven't really seen a whole lot of people talking about it. Some of the weirdest people imaginable conglomerated in his server. I mean like full-blown bigotry being cultivated in an environment intended for young teenagers. Most of this was related to some very popular ships, specifically X-Zero. It wasn't uncommon for people to make incredibly unsavory remarks about how they disliked the ship, and it could almost always be traced back to some flavor of homophobia. I think the worst thing about that place, though, was the lore discussion channel. As the name implies, it was a channel primarily dedicated to the discussion of Mega Man lore, and it was utter hell in there anytime someone was brave enough to start talking about a topic. Conversations would always devolve into some sort of petty argument or excessive actuallys, because many people didn't have access to the materials that people like Jared based their findings on. Usually Japanese exclusive stuff like interviews and what have you. It was so bad that a lot of us who were in different servers together would actually joke about the channel, and anytime someone started a discussion, we would just be waiting on the sidelines watching things derail because someone dared not be caught up to speed with obscure drama CDs. I hung around the server and interacted quite a bit with others there, since I drew a lot of Mega Man related stuff at the time and I wanted to share my art. I don't think I was necessarily popular there per se, but some people might recognize my name since it's only been like 2 years since my departure. Occasionally Jared would be in the general chat and we'd talk with him. He and I also continued to talk privately in DMs. And this is where things start to get weird. My memory of the exact timeline of events is a bit hazy since it has been a few years, but if I remember correctly, the first sign of oddities began when I started talking to him about my home life. I'm not on really good terms with my parents, and I was dealing with a lot of pressure from them at the time. In fact, I had been outed as bisexual to them perhaps a few months into my stay in the server. Tensions were really high, and it was very obviously getting to me. Jared allowed me to vent in his DMs about it, even going so far as to offer me advice about the future. Eventually, the topic of discussion shifted to me going to conventions. I'd been seeing a lot of pictures of Mega Man cosplayers and expressed my desire to go to one, and he mentioned that he wanted to see me go as well. He wanted to go to a convention with me. Keep in mind, we barely knew each other. I mean, I had never even seen a picture of him before, and I certainly hadn't sent him a picture of myself either. I originally thought that he was just trying to be nice, but after reading the testimony of other victims, I realized now how weirdly adamant he was about taking me, a borderline stranger, to a convention. Presumably by myself. After that is where things really start declining. Jared began to get drunk. I mean, almost completely wasted, barely legible type of drunk. And then he had the genius idea to enter the server while he was hammered out of his mind, so he could hang out with the rest of us in the general chat. As you can expect, this was a fucking disaster. He would flirt incessantly with people in the chat, myself included. At one point, he actually called me baby, and it became like a running gag for a few days. All of this while he was still in a relationship with bonus level, by the way. Unfortunately, him being drunk was not exclusive to the public viewing. He DM'd me several times while drunk, and this is where my initial Twitter statement lines up. I need to reiterate the fact that when this happened, I had just turned 18. I might have been an adult in the eyes of the law, but I was still very much an impressionable teenager. Compounded with other things like my strained relationship with my parental figures and questioning my gender/sexual identity at the time, these all made me very easy to manipulate, especially in this context. I looked up to Jared a lot, both as a content creator and as someone who went out of their way to talk and be nice to me. So when he asked me if it was okay if he talked to me about suggestive topics, I said yes, like an idiot, because what was I supposed to do? Say no? I mean, I had no reason to. I was 18. I could talk about that kind of stuff now. It wasn't weird. I didn't know he was like 30 years old and basically hitting up a freshly turned 18-year-old so he could talk about his sexual fantasies. And I will say that he never asked me to do anything explicit. He never asked me for pictures, nor did he send any of his own without my permission. It was just talk. And it was mostly about himself. That being said, it was pretty awkward because I didn't really have any experience in the field of not safe for work topics. But that fact alone is actually what really pressured me to try and keep up with what he was saying. He essentially groomed me into being okay with hearing him bounce shit off of me like, I want a girl to crush my head with their thighs like a watermelon, by manipulating my respect and admiration for him and his status as a content creator. Even though he was drunk, he never went back and apologized for any of it. I guess asking a fan if they're a top or a bottom in DMs while you're engaged with someone else is perfectly fine in his eyes, all things considered. I find it incredibly bizarre in hindsight because, like I mentioned before, Jared has never seen my face or even heard my voice, so I really am not sure where this came from. My only guess is that because I was vaguely feminine at the time, still considering myself cisgender and only experimenting with my pronouns, he thought I was fair game. Which is just fucking ew. Gross. I was also around for these particular screenshots. If you go back to when these messages in general were posted, you'll likely find me there. For a long time, I sat on this information because I didn't really know what to do with it. Jared hadn't technically done anything illegal, and I didn't even have screenshots to prove what I was saying. My original tweet was at the mercy of the public. But then other people started coming forward, detailing their own experiences. To this day, people are still releasing statements talking about how Jared has used and abused their trust in him. So, regardless of what other people think about me, I am glad that I made that tweet. If I hadn't said anything, Jared's disgusting actions would have likely remained in the closet for God knows how long. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my testimony. Please remember that I am just one person who has been affected by all of this, and we need to be giving support to the victims now more than ever. This situation has undoubtedly left scars for all of us, and only through the encouragement of others can we hope to heal. I'd like to end my statement with a huge thank you to BurnCrow for reaching out and asking me to provide my testimony. He has been very kind to me and I greatly appreciate his work covering the timeline of events. I'd also like to remind everyone that I am available to talk about the situation, but you'll have to come to me first. The easiest way to do this is to tag me on Twitter since my DMs are closed. Please don't be afraid to try and establish contact with me if you need clarification for anything. Goodbye for now.
This is not the only testimony related to the GetVent tweet, so allow me to continue with a testimony from a user who decided to remain anonymous. It reads, To sum things up, I discovered Reploid REVO's YouTube channel for the first time around the time I first got into Mega Man in late 2018. The first video from his channel I watched was his Who is Exactly Axel video, which was, and still admittedly is, one of my favorite videos from REVO. I decided to check out some of his other videos regarding the Mega Man lore and characters, and I enjoyed them because of how entertaining and informative they were. That's when I became a fan of Reploid REVO, aka Twitch, and subscribed to his channel. I didn't actually start talking to him until 2020, which was when I created my Twitter account and joined his Discord server, and we became friends. I was 16 at the time. Despite being a fan of Twitch, we didn't talk that often, only occasionally speaking in DMs whenever I had something important I wanted to bring up with him, or joining him in BC in his server when I was in the mood. In February 2021, Twitch became the subject of ire when a friend of mine, who I'll refer to as M, called him out for something he said about CL, something along the lines of her being an adult in a teenager's body. And he made a Twitter thread calling out said friend for doing so. Twitch also misgendered M multiple times. They were non-binary at the time. And when this was brought up with him, he gave this infamous reply, "I am sorry, but I have a hard time respecting the pronouns of someone I no longer respect. Get bent." Despite this, Twitch spun the story around and convinced, or rather manipulated many people into believing he was the good guy, and turned against M, villainizing them for accusing him of being something he wasn't, which turned out to be true later on. I was sadly one of those people he manipulated, and I ended up cutting ties with him because of the situation, and continued to support REVO, believing he wasn't transphobic and was a good person, and his reply was just a heat of the moment thing. Despite continuing to be friends with him, I felt a bit nervous around him, because I heard some people say he was notorious for his anger issues and getting upset with people who don't agree with him. But I continued to stay around him, because a majority of my experiences with him were nothing but positive. A couple of years ago, however, something happened while I was in BC with Twitch in his server chat. While minor, should have been an indicator of the kind of person he truly is. Which is why I'm bringing it up. Me, Twitch, and some other people on his server were messing around on his Kronos Institute world in VR chat, and we were all in BC while this was going on. This was around the time I began playing VR chat for the first time, and I was trying to figure out how to do something in the game. I don't remember what exactly I was trying to figure out, it was so long ago. So I asked Twitch 3 times to help me out. The third time I asked, Twitch got annoyed with me, which made me a bit nervous. Thankfully, he seemed to calm down shortly after, but looking back, this incident bothers me because I've recently gotten word that Twitch has a tendency to yell when he's particularly angry, and I learned of another incident from another friend of mine where Twitch said "what" in a scary and sarcastic tone at said friend when they were having trouble figuring out how to play a game he and some folks were playing in his server. I have trauma from my dad yelling at me whenever he was pissed with me as a child, so if Twitch ever yelled at me when I was in BC with me, I can't imagine how horrified I would have been. Despite that VR chat thing, I didn't think much of it at the time, and things continued on as normal. I would tune into REVO's YouTube channel and occasionally retweet stuff he would put out on Twitter, and while I will occasionally see or hear people saying how much of an awful person he was, I ignored those people, because again, Twitch was nothing but kind to me, for the most part anyway. In March of this year, however, REVO became the subject of controversy once more when the allegations of grooming came out against him. Initially, I brushed him off as people stirring up drama about him again, and I even called him based when he said he was going to respond to the allegation in his server, so as not to add fuel to the fire. But my opinions on him began to change when a friend of mine came out with screenshots of Twitch being flirty with them in DMs when they were a minor. That was when I started to question if Twitch really was the nice person he claimed to be. The next day, more evidence came out of Twitch's disgusting behavior behind the scenes, and that's when I realized I had been manipulated by this grown man. To make things worse, Another long-term friend of mine, who I'll refer to as P, revealed in Jesse's server that REVO was being lewd to them in DMs just mere months after they turned 18. That incident was what made me truly realize how depraved and insidious REVO is. I will admit, I had known about Twitch being lewd/flirty with P because someone brought it up while I was on BC on his server in 2022. But since he was nothing but kind to me, I initially brushed it off as him joking around. Looking back, it disgusted me that I even gave him the benefit of doubt for that. I felt, and I still do kinda feel, terrible guilt after everything that came out against REVO, because I ignored the red flags back then. I guess that's what manipulation does to you. That guilt, along with the fact that I'm technically a victim of Twitch, was what motivated me to come out with P's experience with him. And while I'm no longer associated with Twitch as of now because of everything that happened, he's probably going to haunt me for a while. There are a couple of good things that came out of this situation though, those being P being able to move on and heal, in part thanks to me coming out with their experience with REVO, and being able to apologize to M for cutting them off initially and making up with them, so there's that at least. Then a user named Rebastera also opened up about past experiences regarding Reploid REVO after calling him out for this very same tweet. After REVO made the Get Banned tweet, I called him out on it and posted the screenshot for others to see. It happened in February 2021, and it did get some sort of attention since it brought him down to some amount of followers and he purged his entire follow list. People took the opportunity to share their experiences about him too, but posts about him, including mine, went mostly ignored because at the time the Mega Man community didn't want to disturb the peace in the community. A few people on my post told me that they noticed he had unfollowed them because of the BLM movement/January 6th post and retweets at the time, and the same happened to me. His fans definitely saw that and told him about that, even though I and others haven't told any of them directly. And that led me to getting harassed because apparently I had called him racist, which I have not even said. Him unfollowing us was only an observation me and others took notice of. He got so defensive and decided to badmouth me and slander my name by using it against me, because I guess that's the only thing he could do to make me look bad. He actually made people believe I was a piece of shit for it, and his fans of course overlooked whatever shitty thing he did to attack me instead. His fans have excused his behavior because of that and because they took the screenshot out of context. So I've been harassed and stalked for weeks because he wouldn't shut up about it. Even after 3 weeks, I opened up my DMs for commissions and I almost immediately get his fans up in there. I know this isn't as serious as other things he did, but man, did this kill my love for Mega Man. Later, Twitch uploaded a public response where he explained his point of view, saying that he is not transphobic since he had trans friends, and his comments were targeted at one person, rather than the full community. All of this led to a now deleted document called Mission Complete, which was shown in Rollbot's DMs. This was REVO's response to the incident that followed, that also had bonus level involved. Inside the document, Twitch explained why he would be reducing his presence on Twitter. However, he did so in a terribly angry manner, saying that Twitter does not deserve him and wishing death on those who had attacked him. His words about how the Reploid REVO server is a welcoming place for all types of people and how he's open to everyone's thoughts feels very ironic after the events that we have just gone over with. Another user who goes by WTEIP, Mega Man Archive, also had some information to share with me regarding this very same chain of incidents. This happened in March of 2021. As they have said in their document, Mega made a subtweet in which they talk about REVO in a displeased way. If I remember correctly, this was because of a misunderstanding Megan had about Reploid REVO support of 0xCL, which they found gross, painting him in a light akin to a person who enjoys lolly content. REVO rightfully felt endangered and angered at this claim, yet he overreacted, publicly humiliating Megan even though they had done as he told them, deleted the tweet and apologized within the time frame given. He had also started a Twitter thread on the whole issue, unnecessarily making this conflict public and spreading the word with his following. The people harassed by Reploid REVO that Megan talks about in their doc may refer to me also. Megan and I were good friends, and so I tried telling REVO to stop, which did nothing. Later he updated his thread by including our conversation in it, and calling me an associate of Megan's. However, he also needlessly exposed my past as a member banned from his server, saying you're no bastion of morality yourself. This could be interpreted as hypocrisy, since he has said many times that he believes people can change and should be allowed a second chance, but ignored this fact when it came to me. This conversation is slightly blurred, so Mega Man Archive sent me the text shown on those DMs, which is what you're seeing right now on screen. He then tells me that I was then blocked and the DMs have been deleted, leaving me unable to check for more replies. This is not the only testimony I have received, which showcases REVO being very rude out of nowhere. A user named GeoBlack sent me the information that you're about to see. This is evidence of Twitch's behavior towards me: rude, insensitive, and at times neglectful. I accidentally posted a Country Balls meme. I apologized since I realized it was the wrong place. Twitch was having none of it and just told me off in the rudest way possible. Another user also told me about one of the many examples in which REVO became very confrontational over minor discrepancies with other users. I previously interacted with the guy a couple years ago because he was acting extremely butthurt after Keiji Inafune turned to NFTs, even mentioning a previous combo I had with him when I basically said I wouldn't be surprised if the guy turned to some shady business practices after working on Mighty No. 9. Dude went complete bonkers and blocked me shortly after. I also have another anonymous testimony showcasing an incident where REVO tried to accuse someone of being a stalker. So I deservedly was on his aberrant units list for things I did. It was a dark period in my life where I did really bad things. Despite this, he overreacted to certain things and said some things about me that were false. He accused me of stalking because of how much I DM'd him, and said I awkwardly flirted with him when that was a misunderstanding. I was just trying to tease him like friends typically do. Now moving on, I have an anonymous testimony who contacted me to share a personal story regarding Reploid REVO. Back in August 2022, we were joking around on the Reploid REVO server. At some point, he jokingly brought up the idea of making a secret NSFW channel, and I jokingly replied that I wanted to join. However, he created the channel anyway, and added me in without even asking my age. The problem is that I was 15 at the time. I didn't want to join the channel, of course. I was, and still am, too young, and I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff. But I stayed and didn't weigh anything because at the time I still thought we were joking and stuff. However, as time passed, it started to get clear that it was not a joke, and that the channel was genuinely NSFW. He made inappropriate comments about me, flirting and sexualizing my OC, and he also made a comment about how much NSFW of Jolt he made, and how his was not white but a purplish color. I didn't say anything because at the time I idolized the man, and I didn't want him to get mad at me. I also thought that an adult talking sexual themes with a kid was okay as long as it was a joke. I must admit I was pretty dumb at the time, but the thing is that his responsibility for not even asking someone's age before making them join an SFW server is there, especially because of the power dynamic that inherently existed between us. The worst part, I have always been pretty open about my age, especially on his server, so he could have just looked it up if he didn't want to ask. At some point he finally realized and sent me these messages. These are the only proof I have at hand since his server has been deleted and the channel was also deleted years ago. Again, I was pretty dumb at the time, but I don't think this story is about intentionally grooming, but more about irresponsibility. Adding more evidence of REVO following NSFW accounts, specifically centered around Lolicon, I have an anonymous testimony that says the following. My only testimony is that when I was like 18 or 19, my old NSFW account was still somehow fresh from the oven. I asked him or posted a question suggesting that my followers or mutuals to give me Mega Man NSFW artists to follow, so my NSFW account will be filled with Mega Man NSFW content. As much as I have a neutral stance of making NSFW content, especially certain characters, man, he did really recommend me accounts that draws younglings. And now last but not least, I have a testimony from an anonymous user who expressed how unwelcoming REVO's community felt at a first glance. Hey there, I got contacted by Reploid REVO about 2 years ago. I probably have the least to add as we only exchanged a few conversations, and his Who is REVO and Duster videos immediately gave me bad vibes, along with his Discord, so I simply stayed away. When I first tried being part of the community, REVO and others made me feel like queer people don't belong. I wish I had taken some screenshots of the server or his Twitter that especially tipped me off, so the most I can give is my testimony of someone who's somewhat okay at reading the vibes. Nothing really came up with my own conversation with him, other than him being impulsive and always looking for a fight on the internet. But after we talked, I figured I could maybe try and be a part of the community a bit more, so I followed him back. You know how sometimes you poke at a topic to see if it's safe to come out with something? Basically, his Twitter and I think his server was constantly giving me red flags, especially when it came to trans stuff. Then there was the Who is Duster video, which pretty much was just his partner clearly testing the waters and giving him all the wrong answers. As both those happened within a few days of us starting to chat, I very quickly unfollowed and stayed away from him and the community, and once Bonus broke up with him, I just hoped they stayed safe. And so, we have reached the end of the story. A full month of turmoil among the Mega Man community due to the actions of Reploid REVO behind the scenes. This has been the truth behind one of the biggest members of the community up until April 7th, 2024. And so, what you guys have seen is what happened to Reploid REVO, or rather, what happened with Reploid REVO, since even if he has said otherwise, he is not the victim of the situation, but the main aggressor. This is the end of the documentary. What follows is my thoughts and my feelings about the situation. If you don't want to listen, it's perfectly fine. You can just leave now, so thanks for watching up to this point. What we have experienced is the uncovering of a massive rabbit hole. As a member of the community, I am of course ashamed and truly disappointed at Reploid REVO's actions, as well as his lack of commitment to actually acknowledge what he has done. The allegations are very, very serious, and there's lots of evidence supporting them, further cementing them as the truth. And so, allow me to leave a few messages that I want to express to you all before waving goodbye for today. To the victims, I am truly sorry that you had to put up with your personal incidents for so long, and it makes me happy to see that many of you were able to finally break your silence. I sincerely hope that once the storm has finally gone by, every single one of you can stay within the community and just enjoy yourselves once more. To some of his collaborators who had no idea about the incidents, I hope you can move on from this. There were many artists behind the project, and every single one of you has immense talent, so I wish you the best for the future. To those who wanted to talk to me and help me with the making of this documentary, my most sincere and honest thanks. Your part and your word has been very valuable towards making this happen. Now to the community, I hope we can all remain united and just keep talking and enjoying everything that's Mega Man related with the same passion as we have always done. Let this not be a representation of the community, but an exception of an individual who had a second persona that most people were not aware of. We surely won't let this happen ever again. And finally, to Reploid REVO, in case he watches this, which I highly doubt, make sure to understand that negating or hiding to the truth is futile. Just like you said, fiction and reality are not the same. And just how in reality time machines do not exist, there is no way you can change the past. What you can do instead is to reflect on yourself and try to become a better person for once. And if you ask me, leave the community. I was willing to have your side of the story in the documentary, by the way, but you refused to do so. Now, in my own case, I was lucky to not be a victim of this, nor a collaborator. I was not a fan either. However, I have watched as every single event showcased on this video unfolded upon my eyes. As such, even if I had nothing to report from my side, I decided that I will be collecting information so I could give enough visibility to those who ended up being wronged by REVO. When it comes to personal feelings, I am of course ashamed and very disappointed to learn about every single detail of the situation. Because this is not just drama. The events that surface on the internet in the very past few days are very, very serious. This is BurnCrowSP, and I wish you guys a good day. Please stay safe. There won't be a funky unscripted outro this time, so just stay tuned as I will go back to just nerding about video games for the next video. See you around. Also, and I waited to record this until the very end of the editing process, to this exact point of time, which is the afternoon of the 12th of April, Reploid REVO has not put out his statement.